All right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to be streaming again. I'm telling you, I missed it. Yeah, I'm telling y'all, I'm becoming low key addicted to streaming, fam. Like it's a thing. I'm not gonna lie, it is a thing. I've been enjoying myself tremendously, tremendously. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Hotep History Live. I am your host, President Hotep Dubes, representing Hotep Nation. You dig? Check the sign. Just check the sign. Hotep in the building. Hope you guys have had a tremendous, wonderful weekend. I know I have. Hope you guys learned something over the weekend. I know I have. Hope you guys' day was great. Hope you guys started your day with, something productive. Went out your day, did something productive. Hope you worked your body out, worked your mind out, and did everything that you could to become, a fruitful and productive member of society. That you have done something that's actually going to, benefit yourself not only in the present but in the future as well. Understand that the things that you're doing today are going to 100% affect your future. That's the reason why my outro is what it is. I'm extremely happy to come to you guys. um I don't know if you've noticed, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you noticed, but the ship that I'm running around here is getting a lot tighter and tighter. You dig? And that, that's just off the strength of me focusing and getting good knowledge and advice. And shout out to everybody that has been helping me, build Hotep History Live, and just imparting in their expertise and their wisdom. My brain consultant. Shout out to them. Like, just it's just been great, man. I really can't tell you guys enough just how grateful and full of gratitude that I have. You know, it's extremely important to understand that there are going to be people out there who really rock with your vision, who rock with your movement, and they are going to be a part of your story. They want to see you succeed, and they're going to do, what they can to help you succeed. You know, and having those types of people in your life are extremely important. And if they are in your life, make sure that you hold them close. Make sure you let them know that you are appreciative of all of the things that they do, all of the things that they say, whether it's just giving you encouragement, speaking life into you, whether it's, them investing in you in any way that they can, like those are going to be the moments that you're going to appreciate the most. So it's all about gratitude. And the best way to show thanks is to, make sure that the things that they're doing or the things that they're saying is not for nothing. That's going to be the biggest way that you can repay somebody, is that you can actually use what they're helping you get done and actually achieve, and close in on those things. It's extremely important for those people because they really rooting for you. They're really rooting for you. They really got your back, and they really want to see you win. So the best way to repay somebody who is doing everything that they can to see you win is win. So my day was pretty dope. Hope you guys pile up in the chat. Pile up in the chat. Let me know what you guys' day was like. How did your day go? Was it productive? Did you guys get uh, anything done? Are you better than you were yesterday? That's the most important part. Shout out to Vincent in the chat. Can always count on my man Vincent for coming through. You dig what I'm saying? So let me know how y'all day was, and while you doing that, I'll let you know how my day went. My day, I'm digging this new routine that I'm doing. Waking up, immediately getting into my workout routine. I do a lot of calisthenics. You know, you know what? When I see the word calisthenics, I think I'd be neglecting the N. Is it calisthenics? I don't know, but push-ups, sit-ups, and I have a set of dumbbells that I'm working on, so curls and stuff like that. Different movements when it comes to the dumbbells, because the entire point is to make sure that I'm a sexy being out here. I got to make sure that I'm looking good. And I was having a conversation about just working out and stuff like that, and I was just saying, like, yo, listen, it's about vanity for me. Like, it's about looking good. It's about standing in the mirror with the Superman pose and being like, yeah, that's that's what it's all about. So started the day off like that. Am I coming? Is it too loud? I'm looking at my levels. Let me turn it down a little bit. Let me turn it down. Make sure, cause I was Let me turn it down. Yo, yo, yo. There we go. I think we good now. So throughout the weekend, I was uploading all of the Hotep History Lives to the Patreon, patreon.com/Hotep History, patreon.com/Hotep History. Make sure you guys are subscribing, tap in. A bunch of exclusive content is going to be on there. A bunch of exclusive content is already on there. So you definitely want to tap in. The book club, I tabled the book club for August just because I wanted to do some housekeeping as it pertains to the brand, as it pertains to Hotep history. I just wanted to make sure that I cleaned it up a little bit. So we postponed the book club just for this month, but we will be right back. We are still going to be reading Booker T. Washington's The Negro in Business. I believe that's an important piece of literature just based upon the fact that entrepreneurship in Black America has always been a thing since day one. I believe that the entrepreneurs of Black America contemporarily could definitely use that. So all you entrepreneurs out there, all you business-minded people out there, this book is for you. This book club is for you. So make sure that you are subscribing to the Patreon. Again, patreon.com/Hotep History. You guys are going to love it, and I'm going to love to have you there. You're in good company. There are a bunch of history buffs who just want to learn more about Black American history. So please consider subscribing. It's very nominal, but I will tell y'all right now, prices are going up. Prices are going up. So if you want to be able to get grandfathered in at the rate that I got right now, I implore you guys to make sure you're subscribing because the prices are going up. Prices are going up. So subscribe today, subscribe now, and you'll be locked in at that price no matter what. I respect the grandfather clause. You dig? For all you guys who were, shout out to Nikki for the super chat. Thank you so much. But for all you guys who are, a big fan of my work, I got a lot more scholarship that I've been tapping into, and my studies are super fire, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So this is something that I do plan on doing full time. I want this to be, my main driver when it comes to, my economic success and stuff like that, because I would love to be able to use the ancestors in the way that they would like to be used, honor their legacy in this way. All of the entrepreneurial, I talk about the 5 groups, right? So when we talk about professional, industrial, commercial, intellectual, political, and I think I'm missing one, but for all of, the ancestors that really, put their blood, sweat, and tears into the craft, put their blood, sweat, and tears to their advancement, their community's advancement, their family's advancement, and in Black America overall, to be able to use their scholarship or be able to use their works and be able to bring it to the forefront in the 21st century is extremely important to me. And if I am able to take care of myself and my family and all that other stuff based upon you guys' support, and being backed by the ancestors and the things that they've done, that would mean the world to me. So again, just consider subscribing to the Patreon, because I'm telling you, it's good stuff there, and I'm gonna always be, giving you guys gems straight from the ancestors, straight from the tap. I appreciate it. So let's get to the chat. We got Vincent, like I said, in the building. We got Memphis in the building. Sammy's in the building. Bert is in the building. Nikki's in the building. On my day ones, for real. And I want to just if you guys give me a couple minutes, I just wanted to shout y'all out. Like, real talk, the Sammys, the Vincents, the Memphises, the Berts, like, y'all have been rocking with me since episode 1. We only 26 episodes in, but yo, I can always count on you guys' names in the chat. You feel me? Nikki as well. Like, you guys have been amazing watchers, supporters of the channel, of me. You guys always show up for me, and I'm telling y'all, I'm creating a nice core, ensemble of people who really rock with Hotep history. So I want to make sure that even when the new people come, when there's 1,000 people in here, I want people to know that it was Vincent, it was Memphis, it was Sammy, it was Bert, it was Cliff. Who else being Glasgow? Like, you got Scruggs, of course, Scruggs. Can't forget my boy Scruggs. Like, you guys, I can't tell y'all how appreciative I am that, you guys always come through, and I'm not just in here speaking into the ether. You dig? So I just wanted to, like I said, just tell y'all about my day. Now that y'all in here, let me know. Sammy, I know that you said that you had some good things coming through over the next couple weeks. So, give us an update on that. So I appreciate that, man. I'm telling y'all, like I'm extremely grateful for you guys, and we're gonna keep it going. Hotep History is here to stay. Hotep Live. I remember Hotep History Live when I was just tweeting about it, and you guys told me that go in. Y'all encouraged me to do it. We here. We 26 episodes in, and here's the 26 more, man. So today, we're gonna be talking about the generation gap. The generation gap. This is something that has always been prevalent in Black America, honestly, in the world. I remember I was watching this video, and it was it's a bunch of quotes throughout time, from like contemporarily, like 21st century, going all the way back to like the 5th and 4th century, where the older people in that generation was like, oh, the youth, they're just so, pig-headed, they're so stubborn, they're not trying to change. And one of the things that I've always seen, like, no matter what, throughout time, the generations are going to have a gap between them. The ideological differences, the socio-political differences, socio-economic differences, and just, it is how it is. Like, just think about, like, when you're debating your dad about particular things, you know what I'm saying? Or you're debating your mom or whatever. Like, that generational gap is always going to be there. Fontigalo, he has a line in his song called Cry No More. If you guys never heard it, you should definitely go check it out. But he's talking about his parents, mainly his father, but he was talking about his parents. And in the last verse of the song, he says this line where it says, by the time you realize that your father was right, you probably have your own son telling you that you're wrong. And that spoke to me so much, because I remember when I was a kid, I thought I knew everything. I thought I had all of the answers, that I had life figured out by 15. You guys know, even in my own life, I was very, headstrong. I had my own ideals. I wanted to do my own thing. I dropped out of school to go to work. Like, so I really thought that I had the world figured out. And my pops used to always be like, all right, man, like, I know you think you know what you're doing and all of that, but I'm trying to let you know something. Like, as you get older, you will realize that, the stuff that I was saying is going to make a lot more sense to you. And then, of course, I had my own kids, and I was able to, really see, what he was talking about. But I wasn't able to see it until I got there. And I remember having that conversation with him, and just, once you and your father, like, once you become an adult and you having those like man to man conversations, not boy to man conversations or man to boy conversations, you really start to see yourself and your pops as a man, as a young man. I remember we started having these conversations when my daughter was born, around like my 19th and 20th birthday. And my daughter was an infant at the time, so he was just letting me know, like, yo, son, the realities of, like, yo, son, if you don't work, you don't eat, and all of these different things. Like, and now that I'm well into my parenthood and stuff like that, and I really, really understand him. Great man, and I appreciate, what he did to raise me. And that goes for all of the other men who took the time out to, impart knowledge in me, wisdom, and just making sure that, like, they were equipping me as best as I could with the tools to be a man out here and be productive and just be a stand-up dude. And so I appreciate all of the men in my life who really took the time out to raise me. And that goes for my pops, my uncles, my older cousins, even the dudes on in my neighborhood, people like men like Hev, I shout him out all of the time. So those men really, really, helped me to become the man that I am. And I am proud of the man that I am today. Of course, I'm, nobody's without flaws. I make my mistakes. I fuck up just like everybody else. I'm not perfect whatsoever. However, I am proud of what I've been able to achieve, what I've been able to experience. There you go, Glasgow. There you go. See, I knew Glasgow was going to pop up, man. My day ones, I know they're going to come through. You feel me? So I really appreciate, just all of the things that they have done. However, there was conflict. There were times where I'm like, yo, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And that's really what I believe. I didn't, disrespect them, but I really didn't understand it. And even when it comes outside of those guys and just talking to, to older guys in the neighborhood, teachers, other authority figures and stuff like that. As far as men, yeah, I was going at them, combative. I've never really been a non-confrontational person. I've always been confrontational, to be totally honest. I've always been a a disagreeable guy when it comes to certain stuff. Like if I don't like it, if I don't respect it, if I don't, think that's something that I need to be doing, then I'm not gonna do it. And I'm gonna let you know that I'm not gonna do it, and I'm gonna give you the reasons why. But yeah, so that's really where this conversation tonight is going to be about. And let's get into it. It started with this clip that I seen on the timeline. This one right here. And that's the reason why I said the generational gap, because this young man, he was very headstrong. He knew exactly what he believed. He wasn't going for it. You know what I mean? And we want to start the live off with this, and then we'll go to the full conversation, break it down, and do some more background work. I am going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to start making my lives a little bit more concise when it comes to time. I like the 2.5, maybe 3 hour mark, just to be able to, flesh out some ideas and stuff like that. So, I know some of y'all may be used to the 4 hour, 5 hour streams and stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong. If the scholarship and stuff like that I have calls for it, then we gonna go, especially if the comments are jumping. So the more engagement that I get from you guys, the longer we gonna talk, because I really want you guys to know that I am a regular person. As knowledgeable as I am, as much as I do have my opinions and my views and stuff like that, I want to talk to you guys, and I want you guys to talk to me. This is not a lecture series, and I think that I've created a little bit of environment to where you guys, not you guys in the chat, because y'all always hold it down, but just overall, they kind of look at me like the college professor in front of the podium inside of the college, classroom, and you just listen to me drone on and on about whatever subject, and then the class is over and then you go over to your next class. And while I appreciate the reverence that you guys have for me in that regard, I am not infallible. I can be wrong. I can be, I'm not above reproach is what I'm saying. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't say things that I don't believe, or I don't say things that I believe are wrong. However, I know I'm a human being with flaws just like everybody else. So I want to hear from y'all. I know, like I said, I shouted out the day ones. The day ones always going to talk to me. The Vincents, the Memphises, the Birds, the Glasgows, the Cliffs, Scruggs. I know y'all going to talk to me. But you newcomers, because I've been promoting a lot more, you newcomers in here, make yourself known in the chat. Talk to me. I'm not above reproach. Please, if you disagree with something that I said, let's talk about it. Let's go back and forth a little bit. I want this to be a nice conversation, and I appreciate you guys tapping in. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the clip.
Go ahead, son. As I was going back to see, he pointed out for me that I could go back when I want to. Go back to where? Huh? Go anywhere. Sir, could you stand up? We can't hear you. Could you stand up a little bit by the mic? You mean to Africa? Do you mean to Africa? Do you mean to Africa? We are not Africans no more. You have raped our great grandmothers and stuff and changed us. Let me finish. And gave us a name as a Negro. I am not a Negro. A Negro is a person with a slave at the man. I just want to tell you that. And don't say nothing else to me. Sir? My name is Reginald Dobbs. I live at 3319 Maple, one of the ghettos areas that was pointed out in the film. I'd like to direct a question to Reverend Mitchell. Do you think that we will be satisfied with the jobs they are giving us?
Yes, son, I think so. Simply because we are asking that you be trained on the job, and they start you off with a certain salary start rates, and you would be promoted up to the maximum job.
No, I don't believe it. White man is gonna keep you where he got you. You're not going no higher than he wants you to go, and we ain't gonna settle for nothing but all the way. About this virus and non-virus, I'm for virus. Because we have pleaded for the last 400 years.
Mr. Meek said you did not speak for him. How would you talk to a young boy like that?
Well, I would say I would definitely have to use the Bible, Mr. Dillon.
No, I don't hear.
Well, this is my only way.
I ain't no Uncle Tom.
I know it's a little low, y'all, but I'm gonna give a breakdown anyway.
And his righteousness, all of these things will be heaven is on earth. Mind you, brother.
Where you gonna go when we start revolution? Whose side are you gonna be on? Are you still gonna be on your knees begging for us jobs?
As Mr. Meek said, he wouldn't just die standing on his feet rather than die on his knees. I will die standing up for God, regardless of any circumstance.
Okay. Have God ever told you to let this white man rule you like he is?
Well, young man, you first must be born again. God is a spirit.
I'm born again. I ain't got to be born again. See, I was born in a new generation. Your mother could have brainwashed you, but can't nobody brainwash me. I'm ready. It's gonna take young boys like us to win the revolution.
The white people realize today that they was wrong for enslaving the Negro. The great man, let me finish.
You ain't like that.
If you so militant and so intelligent, why don't you keep your mouth shut?
I'll tell you why, Mr. Mitchell, because I'm sick and tired of you standing up there on a television camera, a black man with a white heart and a white face. You're a black Anglo-Saxon, you disgrace to the race, standing up on a white man loving you. Ask Medgar Evers' wife. Ask the parents of the 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi. Ask Emily Jackson's mother. Understand? Ask Grace Louise's 5 children who were shot in the head because he's riding with a black boy in the car. You stand there and talk like an unmitigated fool. I'm intelligent enough, but I don't want to listen to your drivel.
So I did a little research on this whole thing, right? And so I got a little backstory. So the young man that was speaking, as you can see, his name is Reginald Dobbs. This is taking place on the west side of Chicago. That's where Dobbs is from. The Reverend that was speaking was Reverend Henry Mitchell out of Chicago, and the brother with the hat and the glasses, that is brother Russ Meeks, and they were having a conversation just about the state of Black America and what the solution may be. Now, off the rip, Reginald, as you can see, was very upset, young, and he's thirsty for change. He's young. He's tired of the things that he's seen. He's grown up in the ghetto. He's grown up in the ghetto with Chicago. He's in the thick of it. He's seeing poverty, everywhere that he goes. He's seeing the, police brutality. He's in these environments. And as a youngin', of course, the one of the first things you're going to do is want to lash out. Want to be able to just pound at it. It's like, the same thing that they say, everything looks like a nail to a hammer. So anything that's not the revolution, anything that's not the overthrowing of the government, anything that's not, the political ideologies that he has, then you're just being an Uncle Tom. And then on the older side, and he had his partner there too. You see, he was chiming in, and we'll watch the full vid in a second because it's a lot more people that chimed in, including white people. And so on the older side, you have Reverend Henry Mitchell. He is a minister out of Chicago. He is a part of the North Star Mission, which was just a program out of the city that was, helping, Black American communities in their own way, through jobs, economics, and stuff like that. And so he's coming from it from more of a pragmatic, from the school of like that Booker T. Washington, line of thinking, to where it's like, the more work that we put in, the more constructive that we can be, the better our conditions will be. And so that is going to run diametrically opposed to each other. These two schools of thought have been the two schools of thought in Black America for a long time. This debate really is just a microcosm of the debate that's been happening for, I want to say, at least over 100 years, like over a century. When it comes to this, Booker T. Washington came out there with the Atlanta Exposition speech in 1895. We've covered that on the live before, where Booker T. Washington was like, listen, you need to be able to be more pragmatic. You need to have skills. You need to be productive. And then you fortifying your life through your economics and your ability to actually provide for yourself. I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot more coming from those types of works than you demanding from an external party or the federal government to come help you. And the reason why the more of the conservative views, and I'm not necessarily talking about politics, but of course politics is in there, but I'm talking about just as an individual, being self-reliant, being self-sufficient, being able to provide for yourself as opposed to, looking for somebody else to provide for you. The reason why I will always, champion that type of mindset is based upon the fact that those garner better, fuller, and longer lasting results. When you're relying on an outside party to be able to provide for you or to help you and stuff like that, then you actually are at the behest of somebody who may be your enemy. I'm a limited government guy. Shout out to my conservatives, shout out to my libertarians out there who stand on this. Like, yo, we do not want overarching overarching government telling us how to live. Because a lot of people, when they look at this type of stuff, it's like, okay, the federal government is on our side. They're pushing whatever legislation or they're pushing whatever programs, mandatory programs and stuff like that. And it's quote unquote to our benefit. But what happens when it's not? And we have more information or we have more evidence of these federal government programs doing more harm than good throughout history, starting with slavery. So this is the same governing body that sanctioned the chattel slavery of the ancestors. So just by virtue of the dynamic between Black Americans in the federal government from the beginning, it was always limited to government. The ancestors did not want the government meddling in our affairs because then they call the shots. And if you're not doing A, B, and C, you're not going to get X, Y, and Z. And that's the reason why I go so hard being against the government or being limited to government and keeping the federal government out of my community. And so the over policing and the militarization of the police, that's the government. But what happens is when we're talking about contemporarily, even then too, but contemporarily, we've now conflated the federal government with random white people. And that's when I'm like, okay, we've lost the plot. Because even in during these times, you still had a more of a honed in focus on the government. So even when you have your radicals, your young Black American Marxists and communists coming through, at the very least, they were still focused on the government by and large. Now they're going to talk about, the white people and the Uncle Toms and the people on the ground that they may not like or agree with, but they understood who the actual enemy was. Now, of course, me, I don't necessarily agree with their solution, but the spirit of it though, the spirit is what I rock with. The spirit of, listen, we all we got. We can't be, we're not about to lie down and take nothing. That rebellious spirit, because that is important. That is important. However, the implementation of what they wanted would have been even more government. If we would have allowed their vision to come into fruition, it just would have been even more federal government. It would have been more state-run things and state-run, institutions and stuff like that. And then we're right back in the same situation that we were in. It's just now under a different type of regime, but the regime is still there nonetheless. And under communism, the regime is even more stringent. So you think it's bad now, it's only going to get worse. So again, I understand where they're coming from. I was talking to my man HJ, shout out to Hotep Jesus. We were having a conversation about capitalism and communism a few days ago. And he was like, yo, listen, I understand, your stance in the contemporary, in the contemporary sense. However, you got to understand when you're being introduced to this stuff, you also are living in, capitalism and not faring well. So yeah, there may be examples of people faring well, but your community, your ghetto that you in, this is all capitalism, right? Ain't no communism in here. At least the way they perceived it. Because, I can get into rent control and how the government, like FDR and them pushing the New Deal. I can get into how the federal government is now making the ghetto. The federal government is now making it much harder for Black men to, get jobs to provide for their families. The federal government is impeding on so much due to their overreaching nature, right? And he was like, but you still have to understand, imagine, you living in the ghettos in the early 20th century and whatnot, and then You living the life you're living, robbing Peter to pay Paul, paycheck to paycheck. So you are, for all intents and purposes, disenfranchised under capitalism. And then somebody who looks like you, may or may not sound like you, but has certain similar views as you, telling you like, hey, the reason why you going through what you're going through is because of capitalism. And the reason why, they don't want you to become a communist is because that stops their status quo. And they want you to be, under the capitalist boot. Let me hit you with some literature. Let me tell you about Mao. Let me tell you about what was going on in France. Let me tell you about, Fanon France. And let me tell you about who else? All of these different, communists, Karl Marx himself, like all of these different people, you're reading these books and they're speaking directly to your situation. They're speaking directly to the exploitation that capitalists are, putting out on the worker. And they're speaking about, it's speaking directly to your issue. So you may not have the full, 360 view, especially you don't have the privilege of being somebody in the 21st century like myself, who was able to look at all of these different ideologies for what they are. Also, what is on the ground actually helping Black Americans overall. But you still now are in this position where it's like, there is an alternative. You may not fully understand what that alternative is, but you do understand that there is one. So let's try this new thing. Now, that's the new age. That's your Black Panther Party. That's your Black Power movement, period. Your Stokely Carmichaels, Angela Davis, Fred Hampton, Huey P. Newton. All of these people were pushing Marxism and communism. We talked about that a lot. So the old guard, you feel me? The older generations, they understood, they've lived longer. So they have a larger understanding of how the country that they live in works. They've understood how capitalism has, risen, countless Black Americans out of poverty, despite there still being poverty. And that was one of the things that I've always had an issue with when it came down to like the Marxists and the people like Sandy Darity, right? When I told you guys how I debated him on the timeline, it's like, how is it that you're able to become a tenured professor at Duke and you're a professor of economics and you're telling your students and the greater American public that no matter what you do, even if you essentially replicate exactly what I did in my life, you're not going to be able to change your condition, but he did. And that's the issue that I'm always going to have. I don't appreciate when people are able to enrich themselves, turn around, look at the people who aren't as enriched and tell them, yeah, I know you just watched me get it out of the mud. I know you just watched me, make a way for myself and make a living for myself and all of that, but you can't do it. You need the federal government to intervene on your behalf. You need the federal government to give you money, to give you shelter, to give you food, to give you clothes and provide for you. You need to be dependent on the federal government. I'm great. I'm exceptional. I'm the exception to the rule. Despite me being a regular person, I'm an exception. You're the rule, and you need to be ruled over by the government. I've never appreciated that because it's too contradictory on its face. Way too contradictory on its face. I can't do that. I made a comparison between an economics professor at Duke and my favorite rapper. My favorite rapper, as you guys know, or some of you may not know, it's a lot of new people in here. Shout out to y'all. But my favorite rapper is Currency. Currency, I was a fan of him when he was broke. Like literally could not pay his light bill. Now Currency is a multi-millionaire with several businesses, several assets, a fleet of about 50 cars. Like he's made his own way in every album, every mixtape, every time that he could, he encouraged his listeners like, listen, you can do this too. You can make it out just like I did. You can get rich and ball out and, do whatever you want. You can do it. And I find that so crazy that somebody who has the influence of music in the music world has a more positive or more constructive solution-based rhetoric than an economics professor at a prestigious university in our country. That's ridiculous to me. That I'm getting more motivation, inspiration, and education from a rapper out of New Orleans, and that's no diss to him because he's my favorite rapper, but then an economics professor, I'm supposed to be able to come to you and get the economic. Like I'm supposed to be able to learn how to enrich myself based upon economics, but your entire model is to create this academic, intellectual medium of showing your elitism, essentially, that despite me making it, you can't. And so again, when it comes down to the generational gap during this time, this is what you're seeing. You're seeing a bunch of people who are enriching themselves based upon the rhetoric that they're spewing while telling other people that they need the government to be able to win. Now, at least in the Black Panthers purview, or at least in their instance, they weren't relying on the government, and they were also being as self-sufficient as they could be. Now, of course, they were relying on donations and support from the community, but I'm not mad at that. That's just community, right? So at least they were still anti-government. Now, they went a little bit extreme, you feel me, where they don't want that government at all, and they wanted to overthrow it and bring in communism, but at least they still kept the essence of where the enemy was. When you start to make comparisons now between white and black people arbitrarily, racial wealth gaps and all this other stuff, you are now missing the plot. Because the plot is, the number one issue that black Americans have is disenfranchisement, right? That's the number one issue. Poverty and all of the other things that we hate about the experience or the life experiences of black America. That is being ushered in by the federal government. That is also being ushered in via your votes. And that's the reason why I do go as hard as I do with this whole, mono Democrat only down the ticket political ideology that black Americans have. Now, I will say that when it comes down to black America in particular, a lot of people don't know that a lot of black Americans don't vote at all. So that's them opting out. However, of the people who do vote, they're going to vote. They've been voting overwhelmingly for Democrats for at least 100 years now. I want to say at least it starts in 1913, and then it picks up around the end of the Great Depression, and of course it goes into high gear during the 60s and going into the 70s. So this is the political ideology that black Americans have pretty much been upholding for the greater part of a century, and that has hurt us economically. That has hurt us politically. Those two in the first and foremost. So one of the things that I was, looking at when it came down to this panel discussion was I was just trying to do some background knowledge on the more older speakers, like I said, Russ Meeks and Reverend Henry Mitchell. And we're going to get into an article that I found about Reverend Mitchell in just a second. But I did want to check the chat real quick to see what we're talking about here. Sammy says, I found myself having some level of agreement with both. Exactly. That is, I want y'all to know, in the contemporary sense, in the 21st century, we have that luxury. We have that privilege. I mean, they did too, to be able to see and find some common ground. But now we have W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington. We got Martin Delany, Frederick Douglass. Like, we have two schools of thought and are able to extrapolate the good from both, excuse or disregard the bad from both, and being able to come away with something that's going to be fruitful and conducive to black American advancement. So that's a fact. What else we got? Sammy's, he breaks it down. He says, I agree with the expediency and urgency of the young men, okay, but I also disagree with them that we can have heaven on earth. That's that, quote, road to hell is paved with good intentions path. Correct. He also he goes on to say, the preacher providing a faith-based answer is the issue. Faith is personal, but the problem the kids were articulating were political. All right. Personal solutions don't necessarily resolve political issues. That's a good point. Sam. And then finally, he says those political issues require equal access to capital, but doubling down on the public housing, school, welfare will create more dependency. So great zeal in those youths, but it's just misdirected. And that's my entire point. I'm not mad at them being capitalist based upon what they're experiencing. I'm not mad at their anger. I'm not mad at their frustration. Because he's, the white dude had said something like, yo, go back to where you came from or whatever. And he was like, yeah, first of all, go back to where, checked them and said, yo, don't say nothing else to me. He's rightfully frustrated. He's growing up on the west side of Chicago with nothing but poverty around him. This is taking place around the late 1960s. And so exactly, my point is exactly what Sam is getting at. It's like, yo, listen, I agree that something needs to be done. And when it came down to Reverend Mitchell, I do understand that when it came down to black conservatives of the 1960s and stuff like that who were speaking out against Martin Luther King, which we are going to get into. As a matter of fact, I even tweeted it. I said, it's so crazy how black conservatives during the civil rights era vehemently spoke out against MLK and his political tactics. They were largely ignored and castigated from the mainstream as Uncle Toms. They weren't perfect, but their strategies were exponentially better. And I do stand on that. But the reason why these guys were able to be castigated is because they were towing a line that was bordering on anti-black. And we spoke about this on the previous stream, where it's the spectrum. All the way to the left, you have all of these, the cultural Marxists, the communists and stuff like that, just being like, yo, we need to have a full overthrow of the government. Black people need to completely separate from the system whatsoever. And that is going to usher in the new regime that's going to help black Americans advance. And then you have on the complete other side of the spectrum where you have the conservatives being like, yo, you need to assimilate, adjust, comply, assimilate, adjust, and comply. And when you're dealing with these two extremes, you're missing the actual solution. Because I understand both. I tell you guys that I am for limited government. I want as least government involved when it comes down to the black American community. They agree on that. Both sides agree on that. It's just the implementation on how that looks. So that's the reason why I can listen to, the Black Panthers speak and have it resonate with me. That revolutionary spirit is absolutely necessary. We wouldn't have the United States of America without it. If it was all about assimilation and complying and adjusting to whoever's ruling over you, we would still have the tyrannical, Great Britain government over the United States, right? So this country was born out of rebelliousness. This country was born out of revolution. So I'm never going to take that spirit away, ever. It's a spirit that's necessary, that keeps the tyrants at bay. Being able to take up arms and being able to defend yourself, being able to hold yourself down is extremely important. Now, on the other side of that spectrum, you're still going to have to get along. You're still going to have to get support. And you can't get the support that you need with you thinking that I'm just going to run in opposition to every single thing that this country provides, because then that will be, missing the forest for the trees. Now you're not thinking clearly, just like the people that you would call an Uncle Tom or whatever. And just as a side note, because we did talk about it on a previous stream, the term Uncle Tom was a bastardization of a misinformed take on the Uncle Tom's Cabin book. So it was a book that was written and Uncle Tom was the hero in the book. Then it was a play that adopted the book and they made Uncle Tom the villain. And so people who watched the play started to use that. Well, it's usually the Marxists. I'm just going to be honest. The Marxists and the communists use the term Uncle Tom to denote somebody who was an enemy to black Americans and black American progress. So that's how the bastardization of Uncle Tom happens. But anyway, so you then become, you lack the foresight at that point. You're not seeing what tomorrow is going to bring based upon your ideologies of right now and today. And I understand that, and that's the reason why I talk about foresight so much. I talk about ordering your steps in the present to positively affect your future. Like, I don't know if they really understood what this ideology would mean after they died or after they became old men. Because right now you have that fighting revolutionary spirit. But what happens when you're 45? Are you just going to keep teaching, just revolution? Like, you have to have a pragmatic and practical, view of black American advancement, because somebody has to grow the food. Somebody has to make the clothes. Somebody has to build the structures and the shelters that you're going to live in. Somebody has to provide the electricity, the water, the utilities that you need to survive. Like, somebody still has to, build these things and provide these things. And to think that nothing about America is positive is just as short-sighted as the conservative who thinks that all you have to do is just shut up, comply to the white man, and over assimilate, and lose your own self-identity and become just a everyday drone American. And so I think the middle ground is having that revolutionary spirit to where you're going against things that will harm your community directly. Defend yourself. I want everybody to have their own firearms. I want anybody who, wants to be able to protect themselves to have the ability to do that. That's the reason why we have the Second Amendment. And I also want people to enrich themselves on this soil. There's no way that I'm going to learn about all of the things that ancestors did to be able to enrich the lives of other people. Millions of other people on their backs, and then when it's time for me to be able to enrich myself, I'm like, oh, I'm opting out. That's not how this is going to work. I watched y'all historically get rich. I watched y'all be able to live high on the hog based upon my ancestors backbreaking, tilling in the soil, and building this and creating that and stitching this together and all of this other stuff, and not to mention all of the work that the ancestors, these people in this clip's ancestors worked, killed, and died for. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not anti-American. I will never be. I'm a proud American, flaws and all. Full stop. However, when it comes down to the flaws, we're going to check it. We're going to address it. And that's the reason why I see both sides. And the ultimate solution is going to be the conjoining of those solutions that both had and come into that medium. That would have been perfect. That we're going to have pragmatic and practical, economically based solutions, but don't fuck with us. We put that together, we're an unstoppable force, because we have the young guys out there willing to protect. So that's protecting all of the black businesses that's, being able to circulate dollars throughout the community, which is then creating jobs, which is then lowering crime, which is then also, incentivizing economically, all of the things that we want and need in our communities. So that's my view when it comes to the generational gap in this particular socio-political, conversation. So let's go to the video here. This is the full documentary.
These guys are now managers.
So we're not gonna watch the whole thing.
And why?
I did want to get to parts of the debate that we didn't see. So let's see.
Mr. Meek, why do you suppose that it's actually been relatively cool in Chicago this summer? Is it because things are better in Chicago than other cities?
Well, first of all, the question of cool is relative, because what the white media and the white power structure means by cool means that on the surface they don't see anything. But there's revolutionary ferment in Chicago, perhaps more so than any other city.
Well, why hasn't it erupted, sir?
That's a question you might ask the white folks. See, because we don't go around advocating riots. We advocate revolution. And a revolution
Reverend
takes
Mitchell's
the form
introduction.
that's necessary for it to be victorious.
I want y'all to hear this white lady.
Reverend Mitchell.
Here we go.
For the Methodist Church. I have a...
And what Reverend Mitchell, when he says Christian love, it means Uncle Tommyism.
I'm Helen Brandenburg. I'm a lay speaker for the Methodist Church. I have a daughter, and when she was 18, she represented the United States as a history major. And she's been at Columbia University. And she met a young boy who is an all-A student at Columbia. He is a Negro boy. They are both 19 years old, and they have just been married. His mother is from White Plains, New York. His father is a doctor. Now, I have the most wonderful... Oh, I just think that the new world is going to be wonderful. These are 19-year-old boys and girls. They are married. They love each other. My daughter has been raised as a Methodist. For 20 years, I have served the Salvation Army at Camp Lake, Wisconsin. And there, my daughter has learned to be with little Negro children and love them. And I never thought anything about her marrying one. I have 5 children. I have a Methodist minister, and he is 28 years old. He's the youngest boy in the Rock River Conference, and he has just married a Chinese girl who is herself also a missionary.
So you believe in Christian love, then, as soon as the Reverend does?
Well, this is what our children are doing today. This is a wonderful thing that we can look forward to. America, 19-year-old children who are students at Columbia, who they have learned about religion from their parents, and yet this is what it has been interpreted to them, to love one another. They're going to grow up and raise children, and that's what America will be.
This boy.
So, to going back to Sammy's point, because I didn't touch on that point when he talked about, you know, personal personal religion being, you know, one of the things that shouldn't be implemented in political talks. And I get what he's saying, but even though, because I was talking about this with Maj on the interview on Patreon, check it out. He was saying that, the founding fathers of the country, they may have not been necessarily Christian, but they did believe in a higher power. You know, when you're talking about inalienable rights and stuff like that and all of that, these are rights that were given to you from a higher power. Some call it the Most High, some say God, Allah, whatever it is, but they are recognizing a higher power. So I get that when it comes down to, you know, religion and stuff like that, it's like, the separation of church and state. I get that. But then you also have to realize that when it comes down to the country overall, right? When we talking about the population of people, what's going on? My brother Shad is in the building. Shout out to County Boy Solo. You feel me? But when it comes down to the moral groundings of most of Americans throughout history, it will be Christianity. I can tell you for a fact, Sammy, that the ancestors were staunch Christians, conservative Christians at that. And they stood on that Bible. They did. From day one. So I get that the argument is, it's introduced by the white man to keep them subservient, and it was a whole different type of Bible that the slaves had and all of that other stuff. I get all of that. However, when it comes down to the things that we enjoy as far as polite society, even if it's not explicitly stated, the undergirdings of it is Christianity. This is a Christian country. For the most part. And when it comes down to other countries like your Muslim countries, your Saudi Arabias and your Yemens and all these different places, they may have different pockets of different, denominations or different religions. But for the most part, it's Islam. So I'm not running away from the reality that when it comes to America, this is a Christian country. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they had Jesus in schools and all of that other stuff. And so again, as somebody with a Black American Christian background, I understand the multiculturalism and I understand that there are, different religions out there. However, if I were to go to Dubai, they're not going to acquiesce to my Christian values just because I'm out there. Whether I lived or vacationed out there, they're not going. You can't have alcohol. You can't smoke. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, they're going to espouse their Islamic and Muslim values onto their country. And nobody begrudges them for it. Nobody disrespects them for it. As a matter of fact, they kind of respect them more than they respect the Christians. And so when it comes down to the welcoming and accepting religion of Christianity, to where, come as you are and, ye not judge and all these other things, even though it's taking the Bible out of context and sometimes just absolutely just lying on the Bible, because the Bible 100% says that you can and should righteously judge people. However, you need to be right with God before you do it. That's what it's saying. So I get that when it comes down to religiosity, a lot of people are adverse to it, especially you may not be Christian. You may not be American as far as origin. Your people may be from somewhere else. So I get that. But we're not going to take away the moral groundings of Americans just because contemporarily we have all of these different types of ideologies that pertain to religion today. For the most part, it was Christianity. And that's just American history overall, but specifically Black American history. I don't know too many people's Black American whose granny didn't grow up in the church. She may have done what she did, as she got older, but she was raised in that church. And it speaks to, like, the Whitney Houstons and the Aretha Franklins of the world, to where just your musicality, your musical background usually started in the Black church. I started playing the drums in the church. You feel me? So many singers that I know started in the Black church. So much of our history starts in the Black church. I was watching my brother Talent Rashid right? He was showing his library, or just a small little portion of his library, and he was saying that Black American history, before it was an academic practice with Carter G. Woodson and stuff like that, Black American history was upheld and preserved in the Black church. So a lot of the moral groundings, the character, the building, and all of that stuff comes from the Black church, fam. So I can't separate the two too much, especially when we're talking historically. And that is one of the reasons, or one of the ways, that the younger crowd could come in and castigate the newer crop. I mean, excuse me, the younger guys can castigate the older crop by saying, y'all just some old Uncle Toms. Y'all think the white man is Jesus, and y'all just following that old religion. We even saw a little bit of that when it came down to sinners, right? When Delta Slim was like, yo, this is from us. This ain't that religion they gave us. It's always been little pop shots and stuff like that. But I honestly think that Sinners is an allegory to actually get back to Christianity. But that's a whole different conversation. So when it comes down to that, when the younger guys are hearing that, I'm not trying to hear God. You feel me? So when it comes down to, this type of rhetoric or this type of debate, they're trying to separate it completely or throw the baby out with the bathwater, because whatever, Martin Luther King was talking about as far as the nonviolent movement and all of that, he is rooting a large portion of that in his Christianity. You dig? So Sam says, I'm a Christian, Reformed Baptist, very far right. Learned piano in church. I'm not against it, but I'm more so referencing their governance structure. We are never given those solutions, just faith. Got you. Now I see what you're saying. That makes sense. I can understand that. And so when it comes down to Reverend Henry Mitchell, that's the place that he's coming from. But there was another piece of this that I wanted to talk about, because the video that we saw was a clip that was chopped up of this. So there was another one. It was a debate between Meeks and let's get into the elder here. More than likely an ancestor by now.
Williams, and I'm a civil rights lawyer. What has kept Chicago from erupting has been the open suppression and Gestapo-like tactics that the Chicago policemen have initiated in the Black neighborhoods. Wherever there are 5 or more Negroes congregated, they move in, they break up those groups. I know what I'm talking about. They break up those groups and they shuttle everybody off to jail. Now, sooner or later, there are going to be enough families deprived of their breadwinners and their loved ones that Chicago isn't going to be cool, regardless of how much praying Reverend Mitchell does.
We have a Chicago police official here.
So she was letting Reverend Mitchell know, like, yo, listen, because I'm pretty sure she went to church every Sunday too, but she's on the ground, she's in the neighborhoods, and she's seeing the overreaching police officers harassing the groups of black boys outside, and being tyrannical against against their community. And she's absolutely right. So when it comes down to these issues, they understand that there is a problem. Nobody is denying the problem. And so she's not with the praying things away. And I get that. And this is not me being sexist or anything like that, but this does speak to the dynamics between black men and black women as it pertains to solutions, right? She feels for those young boys. She don't want them to be harassed by the police. She don't want them to feel less than, or to, be berated or, abused by the state. She feels for them. I'm pretty sure she has children, more than likely a son, and she don't want her son or her daughter out there in the street being abused at all. That's a fact. But I don't think that the elder would say that we don't need any police. We need proper policing. And so I get that you can see it. It's like this whole debate, they're full of frustration. Everybody's frustrated because we're dealing with a particular problem that's happening right now in our community. This is a Chicago based conversation talking about Chicago problems and implementing Chicago solutions. You feel me? And shout out to Chicago. But when it comes to that stuff, you're going to see the differences in disposition, and you're going to see the differences in sensibilities in Everybody wants the same thing in this room. They all want the same thing. They want black Americans to be in the proper places of society. They want the government to, stop being so overreaching. And they also, have an issue with, all of the things that are going on, and they want the solution. Everybody in here, for the most part, wants a solution. They just don't have the same, execution in mind. One group, especially the younger guys, they want to usher in, a new regime, Marxism. Like he said, he asked the Reverend, are you going to be ready when a revolution comes? Whenever you hear revolution throughout the 60s, I know when I was a kid, I didn't even know what that meant. I just thought that it sounded cool and it was just, bucking against the system. But when it comes down to what revolution is, they were talking about ushering in communism. They were talking about ushering in Marxism. And you still, regardless of, your rebellious spirit, you have to consider the source. Where did you get this ideology from? Oh, you got it from Karl Marx. You got it from France. You got it from Mao. You got it from Soviet Russia. Like you're getting it from places who are actively warring against or ideologically against your home country. That matters, because I know as a man, if I'm running my household the way I'm running my household, and then somebody, comes in and tells my kids, you dig what I'm saying, that, oh, nah, you need to, follow another father in the neighborhood who runs directly opposed. Like this man, the other father, right, in the neighborhood is somebody that I don't even rock with. Me and him enemies for real. And now you telling my children to follow my enemy? You telling the people that I take care of, who I provide for, who I have, established whatever I established, to now follow the ideologies of a man who was like literally running in opposition to who I am and what I do. And that's a problem. That's going to be a problem. That makes it much easier. And I'm not excusing it, because it was, again, overreaching government. But that makes it easier for a COINTELPRO to happen. Oh, we got to keep our eyes out. They're communist sympathizer, or they're, sympathizers, or they're communists themselves, they're Marxists themselves, and we need to be able to surveil them, be able to bug their phones, bug their, their houses, being able to, surveil them in a way that makes them, uncomfortable and stuff like that. They are now justified or vindicated for what they just said or what they just did, despite it being unconstitutional. Okay, despite it being, an infringement on your human rights. We can justify it by saying, oh, you guys are subverting the entire, United States government. You guys are trying to overthrow Capitol Hill. You guys are trying to burn down the White House. And so we need to be able to protect our country, protect our borders, and, protect our fellow countrymen and our constituency and all of this, to be able to explain why we are subjugating you this way via that same overreaching government. So again, you have to be able to understand strategy. We talked about the different strategies between the deacons for the deacons for self-defense and deacon for justice. Anyway, the deacons for self-defense and justice versus the Black Panther Party and their strategies. Right? The deacons, you had to be at least 21 years old and older, married, military background, and a registered voter before you can become a deacon. And that was to make sure that we wasn't having a bunch of hotheads. And I don't have any problem with Reginald, but Reginald is what they would consider a hothead. He's angry. He's very combative, and he's ready to act. He's willing to. He literally said, "Yo, I'm for violence." And don't get me wrong, I'm for self-defense all the way. But Reginald, in this context, he's ready to take the offensive. He's ready to attack a police officer. Like, he's ready to, why am my inflection like that? But he's ready to attack a police officer right now, because a police officer did something grimy last night, and I see another police officer this morning, and I'm ready and willing to attack him. Those types of differences in strategies where you're going to see the difference between the young and the old. You remember when you were young and you was ready to jump out the window at anybody that thought that they could disrespect you. And then when you get older, you now practice de-escalation. Somebody step on your foot or you step on somebody else's foot. Yo, my bad, brother. I didn't see you there. You not be like, oh, watch where the fuck you going. And like, yo, dog, people can die. People have died based upon those types of interactions. So as you get older, you do have more wisdom. You do gain more knowledge, right? So again, the entire point of this is being able to bridge that gap between the young and the old. And this is what these conversations are doing. So what else we got? Let's see what else is happening in this debate.
Chicago Police Commander to respond to the charge about police repression.
Yeah, the police were
Chicago
scared to
this
respond.
Is there an official in the Chicago Police Department who could answer that?
Now this lady, she was fed up.
You're not to give comments, sir. Your name, please.
So this lady, she from the town, like she from the hood, like she from the neighborhood, and so she voiced her opinion. Let's see what she had to say.
Fiedler of the East Avondale Community Council, a branch of LSNA. Mr. Meek, I recognized much of your film. Is this the 3100 block of Maple?
33 and 32.
Fine. 32 was where I was raised. Looks quite familiar as it did when I lived there. Marshall School still looks the same also. And there was more than 75% colored when I went there. You know, we got along great. Some of, all of us got along together very well. I recall very few colored and whites fighting. We were friends. When there was any arguments or fights, as there usually is, as you call it, the ghetto, we seemed to stick together. The colored stuck up for the white, and the white stuck up for the colored.
Well, they couldn't have a time like I have. They have to be all the time.
What is your point,
No,
ma'am? Do you feel that the...
I arose
Yes.
from this neighborhood. I lived in the slums. I'm not ashamed of it. You know, nobody helped me get where I'm at. I scrub floors. I scrub floors. It doesn't make any difference. The friends that I graduated with have jobs and homes just as I have now. And they were colored. And they had a chance. They sat right next to me in class. The teacher listened to them just like she listened to me. And it was that same house that you showed me on that film. So then, I am as the same as these boys here. Because I seen little white kids as well as colored kids together digging out of garbage cans. Not separately. Together, we walked the alley. We walked Madison Street. We tripped over probably the same drunks in front of Rothschilds that are still there now. So what about me? Am I a poor white person? God help me, give me mercy. I want white power then.
I'm sure you do, and you should have it, baby.
What
You
about
got it.
Broadway? What about North Street? What about Wilson Avenue?
Well, you want to let me address
Where the
myself, too?
ignorant white people are.
What about them?
We
They
have
got
a
their own
problem,
problems,
too.
lady, and I think that the white people
Okay.
should have white power. I'm talking about black. You see, talking to you is an exercise in futility. Let's get this clear. I'm not talking about white people. Man, you solve your problems. You use force or violence, whatever necessary,
No,
and I
we
don't
don't.
blame you. And if I had the thing you had, I wouldn't want to give it up either.
Do we come and march and you say, look at our poor people, look at our hungry
No,
babies?
you don't have to come because we can't solve your problem. You have to
right.
solve your own, and we want to solve our own.
By
Understand?
violence?
Who said anything about violence? Everybody here is talking about violence, but
He
Russ
said
me.
he believes
That's
in
he-
violence. I wanna
Doesn't
know
he have a
why.
right to? They're going to take him in a few years and teach him to kill with the best weapons
They
available.
taught my brother to kill, too.
Okay, so let's
And make
ask
it
the United
mine
States
death.
government about violence.
Yo, she's so you can tell like she really thinks she bucking against something. Like I'm poor. I'm from the same neighborhood that you was just filming. Because before the debate happened, you saw there was a small little documentary that he was filming, and you know the young Reginald, they was outside. Reginald's friend and Russ Meeks, him right here on screen. He was basically showing, you know, just the ghettos of Chicago and stuff like that. And she's saying like, yo, I'm from that neighborhood. I'm from there. So there were poor white little boys rummaging and eating out of the trash too, because he was speaking in the film that, you know, there's young black boys eating out of the garbage. Right? And she's saying like, yo, little white boys was eating out of the garbage too. That's the reality of the west side of Chicago at this time. So if you were unfortunate enough to be raised in this neighborhood specifically, right, no matter what race you are, if you are poor, you're poor. And so she's looking at it from the white side, obviously. That's the white view of things. And he's looking at it from the black side of things. And so her thing is like, yo, listen, when I was a kid, so this is happening in the late 60s. So that means when she was a kid was like the late 30s, right? Maybe the 40s or whatever. And she's saying that, yo, I went to an integrated school and me and the black kids and the whites and the blacks, they were getting together. And they were fine. They were working together. They fellowship together. They went to school together and all of this other stuff. And it does speak to a particular reality, particularly up north, out Midwest and stuff like that. But she's not lying. You dig what I'm saying? Like I know for a fact that she's not lying, based upon just my scholarship and whatnot. And she is speaking from her experience. I'm not even saying that she's necessarily wrong. You dig what I'm saying? But I do think because of how sensitive the situation is, right? That she's not really understanding the full context of what it means to be a black person or a black American in the west side of Chicago in these neighborhoods. And it's not to say that her, like I said, it's not to say that her perspective is wholly, it's not wholly truthful or doesn't have some facts in it. But there is a level of animosity that black Americans are, dealing with from the state, from the police, from these different politicians who are trying to, harm black America by trying to help, good intentions and whatnot. So she may not see that. So that's what Meeks is speaking to. So that's that juxtaposition. It's a tough one, but those conversations do need to be had. Because you're not going to sit here and discount either side. You can't discount Meek's lived experience being in Chicago, but you can't discount hers either, because it's not like she was growing up in, whatever ritzy neighborhood in Chicago is. You feel me? She grew up in the same hood that you were talking about. And the white boys that grew up in there, they grew up in the same neighborhoods that you were talking about, and they are almost equally disenfranchised. They don't have jobs. They don't have access to whatever it is that it's not happening. So, again, I believe the overreaching governments, tyrannical governments, don't give a damn about race. Now, they're going to use race as a tool to keep people at each other's throats. I 100% believe that. You dig what I'm saying? However, when it comes down to the reality of the situation, the government doesn't give a damn about your race unless they're going to use it against you. So, yeah, they're going to be able to show you, oh, there's racial tension between white people. I told y'all that there were people on the ground, as far as the Marxists and stuff like that, that were stoking the flames of racial tension all throughout. You feel me? Not to mention all of these tyrannical police officers. Cannot stress enough the tyranny that police officers were, inflicting onto these people. So all of these things are true. Everything is true. Everybody say, two things can be true at once. This is the quintessential example of two things being true at once. Let's continue. Oh, wait, hold on. Sam is in the chat. He says, I'm in Alpharetta, Georgia. Ain't no stores open past 9-10 p.m. But you go to DeKalb or Cobb County and you'll see more loitering around open late night venues. These come down to zoning commissioners and city councils. And this is what I'm saying. People are so worried about interpersonal social racism, and you're not holding your officials accountable. That's one of my bigger points. Like, yo, you have to understand that, yes, social racism is an issue, all of that stuff, but that's more of something that you can, deal with, move away from, have them move away, whatever it is. But when you have this racism coming down through the government, whether it's local, state, or national or federal, yeah, that's going to be a harder fight. However, you have the power to actually enact change in that, because you voted for them. You picked them as your representative. I was talking about, and we'll get to it a little bit later in this, but I was talking about how the Congressional Black Caucus voted for all of the legislation that we see that has historically harmed black Americans. The Congressional Black Caucus voted for it. They were for it because it was presented to them as a quote unquote solution, and it wasn't. And it wasn't like there wasn't black men and women being like, yo, this legislation is not going to help black people. Just like today, you'll have black Americans telling them like, yo, government handouts are not going to help. They're going to harm black Americans. And then, of course, they get relegated to the Uncle Toms and all of that other stuff. But, yo, there are vocal people speaking out against this. And we're going to get into somebody who specifically in this, Reverend Henry Mitchell, will get into what he thought and what he was doing.
Baby, they live on it. They thrive on it. They're enmeshed in it. This is the most violent society in the world that you run, baby. You hung black men up by their heads and cut their bodies to pieces. You burn women to death. Yes, I got the pictures on my wall. I was tied to a tree by the Klan and had a knife run through my body.
You never seen white people killed, though.
White people, I'm not worried about them.
See? She said, but you've seen the Klan and other vigilante domestic terrorist groups. Did you see them kill the white men? He said, I'm not worried about them. Meeks was tied to a tree and stabbed by the Klan. Stabbed by the Klan. How else would you want somebody to view the world when you got tied to a tree and stabbed up? And I don't even know how he survived. Thank God he did. But that's a real experience that he's going through. So again, I understand. I don't need to agree with you to understand. There are going to be some of his politics that I absolutely just disagree with, because I'm not trying to usher in a communistic or a Marxist regime. But I'm not going to discount the fact that that man was tied against a tree and stabbed by the Klan repeatedly. That's insane. To think that he's not justified in a way to have this disdain for white people in general would be insane. Now, I'm going to be a little bit more pragmatic and say that, no, I'm not going to castigate, the entire race based upon the interactions that I have with individuals. You dig what I'm saying? But if these individual isolated incidences keep compounding on themselves, what you expect? What do you expect?
And I watched them die in front of me.
That's tough.
As a kid.
That's tough.
And she's talking about a white boy that was killed by the Klan or by domestic terrorists, and he died in front of her. Again, two things are being true at the same time.
That's tough, but we're talking about black power, black society,
That's all we hear.
divorce from white society. You were here at town meeting. Well, go home if you don't want to hear, baby. Go home. Because we don't need you.
You don't want to hear us, you go.
No, she got spicy with him.
Because Mr. Meek is a little louder in his voice. I think this is a very interesting point, and I'm it's an amazing coincidence that you did live in that immediate area, because we had no idea that was going to be the.
Exactly. That street.
Do you still live in the area?
No, I don't.
And you're.
It looked just like that when I did, though.
Sure.
And Beidler School. Do you know Beidler School there,
Yeah, I
Mr.
know
Meek?
Beidler.
Do you know the old school?
Yeah, I
The
know
old one with the wooden floors?
Yeah.
I walked on them. There's a new school
you want a
there now,
medal?
isn't there?
You want a medal,
I didn't
something,
get
baby?
no new schools, but
You
I'm
want a
not
medal?
complaining.
Give it a CMH.
Let's let her
She's for a white person.
Hold on, Mr. Meek.
You're the one that's crying the loudest.
Who's
I'm
crying?
crying.
That's what I'm saying. She was talking to him spicy, like, you the one crying. You the one complaining, like, I was like, sheesh.
Yeah, I'm not crying.
I'm
Do you know the
shining.
difference between defiance and a cry? You're talking to a black man, baby. I don't cry to white
I
folks.
talk to 'em all
I'm
my
talking to my
life.
people, not even to
I
you.
talk to them all
hold
my
it, Mr.
life.
Meek.
So you're singing the
Hold
blues.
it.
But you're
Hold it.
blaming us. We got a right to
Blaming
stand
you?
up and defend ourselves.
Defend yourself. I glory in your spunk, baby.
Hold it, Mr. Meek.
But wipe the blood off your hands
Hold
before
it.
you
There's
stand.
no
Hold it.
blood on mine.
All right, ma'am.
You got the pictures. I haven't.
All right, hold it,
Yeah,
folks.
No,
well,
I'm
conscience is
not
bothering
guilty
you.
of
Ma'am,
nothing.
I'd like to let you say this very succinctly.
Are we wrong because we're white?
Yeah,
Are we wrong?
yeah.
Well, then maybe the shoe's on the other foot now.
Well, your men seem to like our women so much we get a little confused. What do you mean?
Yo, they was going at it. They was going at it. I forgot what even the end point. He was a teacher, because we got to get through this. Well, Vincent says, why does she feel the need to have center herself? This conversation was about black and white people. So they're both centered in this. This is, this actually is akin to the Jubilee conversations, right? The Amanda Seals versus 20 conservatives and, all of these different people, coming together to try to have this town hall meeting and be able to hash out ideas. So in this particular instance, and that's the reason why I did play her and stuff like that, and the other white lady and stuff like that, because this conversation was specifically to center white and black people. It's not this panel was not just about black plight. This is a panel about race relations between the two races. So this is a little different, because I don't play that. We don't center white people in Black American history, but this specific conversation centers around black and white people, race relations as it pertains to the 1960s in Chicago. So that's the reason why. But she is, in this particular context, saying that, well, my life is my life experiences is one thing and you guys are saying another thing. So why is it that your reality is more prevalent than mine? And that's the reason why she's getting so defensive and combative with him. Sammy says she probably Irish or some non-WASP delineation. I wonder how long after this did Fred Hampton's Rainbow Coalition come down the pipeline. I want to say this is actually running congruently. It may not be, but this is what Fred Hampton was speaking to. It's like, yo, dog, like, the government doesn't give a damn about your race. They're just going to use that against you. And that's the reason why Fred Hampton himself says black power to black people, white power to white people, red power to red people, yellow power to yellow people. Like, it was all about, like, you can have the racial pride of where you come from all you want. As long as you are fighting against this tyrannical government, you one of us. So the Rainbow Coalition, that's what it was all about. Being able to, come together, you know what I'm saying? Being able to come together against the tyrannical government. Again, listen, I agree. Now, like, the more and more that I read and the more that I study this stuff, the more and more I just stay in tune with what's going on, the more and more I agree with the Panther Party. The only thing, like I said, that I disagree is just the communist and the Marxist part. Coming together, bringing the races together and all that other stuff for a common cause, mutual benefit. Booker T. Washington talked about that. Being able to be relying on yourselves like they were doing. Booker T. Washington and all the other ancestors were talking about this. The only issue that Booker T. Washington or the likes of Booker T. Washington in their contemporary sense was that, we see the progress that black Americans have made under capitalism. Under this regime, yes, racism, yes, poverty, yes, racist police, yes, all of the things, but you also have black inventors, black entrepreneurs, black schools, black prosperity, black family, black, just overall black American advancement. And I implore you guys to show me a demographic of people that were able to come from the dregs of society, which would be, slavery and stuff like that, and then rise out of it with communism, rise out of it with Marxism. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're not, but I'm like firm in my my assessment that that's not happening. It's not happening. And the reason why I know that is, one, based upon my studies, one, and then two, it would have been replicated for real, without even really needing the government for real. They would have replicated this stuff inside black American communities, and it's not happening. It's not. So that's the reason why. Let's get back to the chat. It says, Sammy says, interesting, that makes a lot of sense. Vincent says $1 million worth of whiteness. And then he also says the complexion for the protection. Hey, that's a fact. We know about Paul Mooney.
There isn't segregation in Chicago, and if she's been to the schools, I teach in the West Side. My name's Richard Kelly. I teach an upper grade center in the West Side, and I next year conditions are worse than last year. I have 39 in the class where I had 35. We have a white principal, white assistant principal. The Negroes that teach our school are afraid to open their mouth because they're afraid that they're going to lose their job, their times. There's a lot of segregation, not only in the house. You can go in the different neighborhoods. Ma'am, I don't see how you can sit here and dare to talk to Russ Meek and say there isn't segregation in Chicago.
The whole thing comes down.
Now, this guy before. So, he's calling her out. And this is what y'all was saying in the chat. Centering herself and all of that. Like, how can you say that you have this super idealistic view of, the reality of Chicago right now? Because you went to school there when you were a kid, and the host asked her, like, do you live there still? And she says, no. So you haven't been in here for real. In the past however many years, you haven't seen what's going on the ground. So you can sit here and boast and brag that you come from 3200 Maple or whatever the block was, but you haven't been on 32 Maple in a very long time. And if I'm sounding too loud, y'all let me know, because I'm looking at my levels. It's hitting the red. I just want to make sure I'm not sounding too crazy. Yo. Damn, Jesus. Oof. Let's calm it down here. So when it comes down to that, the teacher who is currently teaching in a school is saying, like, no, the school is segregated. It's white staff, white principal, the black staff, they don't want to make any waves. How can you say that that's not happening? So he called her on her bluff right then and there. But this guy, I think he outside of Reverend Mitchell and Russ Meeks and the young brother that we saw in the clip, he's going to be one of the more controversial figures. Let's check him out.
Elmer Lazar, Chicago, Illinois. The whole thing.
Are you with an association? An organization?
No, just individual.
Right. Go ahead.
The whole thing here comes down to education, rather lack of education. Now, to prove this to you, I was an employment manager of a firm that employed dozens of Negroes 5, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And we were looking for a truck driver several times, not just once, dozens of times. We used to interview colored fellows that come in, from 18 to 30, any age. And out of 25 colored fellows that came in to apply for the job, only 3 or 4 could talk, could read and write English. 3 or 4. Now, these were newly come Southerners from the South, see. And only out of the 25 fellows that we interviewed, only 3 or 4 could read and write. Back in 1950, 1952, 53, 54, 55.
So your point is?
What can you do with the people that they sent from the South that can't read and write? What can you do with people that have no education? Now, well, we have to educate. The South should not be allowed to send these colored people up here. Rather, they should educate them. They should
Yeah, so he had the whole room being like, oh, fuck out of here. Like, so, remember when I told y'all about the Great Migration? We was talking about this during the last stream. When it comes down to the northern, western, and midwestern counterparts already have largely assimilated into their neighborhoods and to, raising their literacy rates, their education levels and all of that. A lot of the southern migrants coming from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, et cetera, they're coming up north, going out west, going up to the Midwest. And they don't have the same levels of education. They don't have the same levels of vocation and stuff like that. Well, vocation in industrial they had, but again, the reading, writing, and stuff like that, they had lower levels of education. And when it comes down to job, applications or interviews and stuff like that, you have to be able to present yourself well. And if you don't have, the diction, or if you don't have the vocabulary, or if you don't have the, social interviewable skills and stuff like that, you are going to be passed over. That's true today. It was true back then. And so when we're talking about thousands upon thousands of new black Americans from, millions over the course of 1910 to 1970, which would be in this pocket, you have thousands of people coming in a month. So that's regardless of how you feel about it, that is going to overwhelm your community. I don't care if it's 1965 or 2065. If you have an influx of people coming into your particular neighborhood by the thousands in a very short time frame, what economics is going to be able to sustain these people? You dig? So not only is the real estate, not to mention racial covenants and all the other fuck shit going on with the government, you also have to deal with the literacy rates. You also have to deal with the education levels. You also have to deal with the cultural differences between North and South. You have to deal with all of these different things while also doing whatever you can as black Americans to accommodate your country cousins, your down South cousins. Like that's a thing. You have to cope. You do have to deal with that. So when this is happening on the ground, you have to be able to deal with it. And so again, he is in charge of employing people. He said out of 25 people, maybe only 3 of them, 4 of them, or however many he said, could, read or write or be able to actually pass through the interview process. That's an issue. So his whole thing is, we need education. And again, if it seems like, and I know this may be your first time, watching this stuff, if it seems like I'm just like super like sweet or cool on the white people, you have to understand that I approach these types of things very stoically, that I don't get like kind of up in arms about shit. Like they've been saying colored the entire time. I'm not about to flip my wig or be, clutch my pearls, you feel me, just because this is a raw conversation. This is real. This is what people truly feel. And you have to be able to, listen to these types of things without getting all emotional about it. Now, of course, you're going to be a human being. You see the whole room when he said, they shouldn't even allow, the Southerners to come up here. The whole room erupted like, what? So you're a human being. However, when it comes to these things, I could care less how racist or non-racist he is. I'm going to hear what he has to say. I'm going to attack his points. I'm going to listen to his points before I care about how he may personally feel, because I don't care. And we're going to get into that later on in the stream because I'm sick of that too. So let's get into, was that the rest? I don't think anybody else. This was another preacher who disagreed with Reverend Mitchell.
That's the point.
How about this gentleman in the front row? Would you identify yourself, sir?
I'm Reverend Emmett G. Davis, the Executive Director of the North Suburban Organization for Fair Housing. There are a couple of points that I want to speak to, particularly to get back to originally the way we started out.
Yes.
We're caught now in this trap between whether we're going to follow Dr. Martin Luther King with a nonviolent approach or whether we're going to follow my friend Russ Meeks here with a violent approach. We're at a loss to know what to do. We tried Dr. King. We're afraid to try Meeks.
Are you afraid to try Meeks? You're afraid to try Meeks?
Some of the people on the North Shore are afraid. They've gotten a little sophistication because they've been able to move to the North Shore.
Are these Negroes you're talking about?
Negroes, yes.
Middle-class Negroes.
They've been calling the police department in Evanston, hoping there's not going to be a riot in Evanston. They are afraid, too. Now, how do you reach these kind of people?
Well, you feel
I wish Mr. Meeks could tell us this.
The middle-class Negroes...
The middle-class Negroes who have become complacent, who fear the revolutionary lower to lower economic class Negroes.
Well, Mr. Meek, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I'd like to respond because I think that you sound like a reverend. Thank goodness there's some people like you left.
Thank you.
I might even come to your church one day and see what you have to say. Man, whew, what a breath of fresh air. I want to say this because, see, first of all, there's a mistaken notion. The Watts study, which they just brought out, proved that the middle class black man is much more violent than the so-called lower strata.
Well, that differs from what he was saying.
Well, you see, when you talk about people in North Shore, see, here's the point, which, I'm talking to black folk now, that no matter what happens, the dialectics of the situation are going to make you either get off the fence or crawl in a hole in the ground. It is the ability to take your own resources and develop a culture, a society, a community of our own, the way we want it, free from white interference. And we give you the same privilege. We're not interested in interracial housing. We don't want your neighborhood. We want ours to be just as good, see? We don't want a store in your neighborhood. We don't want you coming in our neighborhood and open up stores and exploiting us and then go home and throw a bomb if we move next door out in the suburbs. We don't want your schools, but we want our schools to be the highest and the best possible for our black progeny. See, what people don't understand, we are saying, and we're not asking. You see, the die is cast, as I said. We're not asking. We're saying this is the way it's going to be.
Well, Mr. Meek, why do you feel, as an example, just to zero in on this, why do you personally feel that Martin Luther King's way is not the way to work?
Well, it's very simple to me, because it hasn't worked.
He's talking about new techniques, tying up the city.
You don't tie up no city. You don't tie up a city. There's no such thing as massive civil disobedience. There's two things. You either have a revolution, because the moment he tries that, the police force with the live bullets from Mary Day talk about going to open up on him. And what's he going to do about the black folks laying out there in the street with blood running out of their bodies? You think that then he's going to lose control, then he's going to run and call the president and say, send the troops in. You see?
Let me ask you a question. What if every Negro employee of the CTA picked one day in September to get sick? Wouldn't that tie up the city?
No, they'd get fired, they'd put white folks in their place.
From the Catholic Interracial Council. I'm also a Democrat, and about 1,000 years ago, there was a Greek philosopher who said that those who do injustice are more...
So, I 1,000% agree with Meeks there. That's the entire point. And that's the reason why, like, when it comes down to these people, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, ideologically. He said, we don't want to interfere with nothing going on with white people. We just want our own for our own, period. We want to be able to build ours up without any interference or impedance by white people. Now, of course, again, I wouldn't say white people. I would say the government, because, again, that's who is largely going to be the people that's going to be inflicting this stuff. But when it comes down to it, that's exactly what he meant. Now, going back to what I was talking about as far as the black conservatives of the 60s, late 50s, 60s, going into the 70s, and how I said they were relegated to Uncle Tom's and stuff like that. And as Meeks was speaking, you saw Reverend Mitchell leaving. He was out. I guess it was the end of the program or whatever. He was out of there. There were so many different men, particularly men, conservative men, who spoke out against Martin Luther King. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, this is where they agreed as well. The revolutionaries didn't agree with Martin Luther King. Now, they didn't like that, he was assassinated and used that. That was one of the first riots. Like, that was, I'm not going to say one of the first riots, because that'd be, a misnomer. But as it pertains to, like, the civil rights era and stuff like that, that was one of the bigger ones. So, again, Reverend Mitchell, George Schooyer, Joseph H. Jackson, there were several prominent men of the time who spoke out against Martin Luther King. So I wanted to look up who the Reverend was. They said his name. So I looked him up, and he did have some writings, and we were able to, find some. But this is an article. So this is a secondary source that cites the primary source and stuff like that. I was in the middle of doing a lot as I was preparing for this. And so I think this is still concise. And I think this is a dope read, and it speaks to what Reverend Mitchell was speaking to in the discussion or the panel. So we're going to read this whole thing. So let's get into it. It says, "No more fussing and bussing. Reverend Henry Mitchell and freedom from the federal government." See? Freedom from the federal government. Before we get into that, let's check the chat. And while y'all are here, it's about 20 people in here. Make sure y'all are retweeting my pin tweet. Go to my page right now. Retweet. Okay, retweet, like my man Shah say, repost the space, repost the stream, repost the stream. You feel me? Make sure y'all are sharing this out, and make sure y'all tapping in. This will be uploaded on the Patreon tonight. So check this out. No more fussing and bussing, Reverend Henry Mitchell, and freedom from the federal government. Let's go. In line with the 2025 presidential theme, this paper argues that Black Baptist minister and John Birch Society speaker Reverend Henry Mitchell described freedom as, quote, individual responsibility and, quote, less government over and against Dr. Martin Luther King's calls for federal intervention. His vision of freedom reveals how Mitchell filtered Bircher conspiracy theories of communist infiltration of the federal government through a fundamentalist approach to the Bible that informed his politics of self-sufficiency, economic uplift, anti-communism, and nuclear family values. Who that sound like, chat? Who that sound like, chat? Come on now. Give me some credit now. That sound like your boy. While not dissimilar to the ideologies of white conservatives, his values require further examination, not only because of his affiliation with the John Birch Society, but also because his politics reflected the lived experiences of marginalized Black Americans. Mitchell sat at an unexplored intersection of Black fundamentalism and reactionary conservatism, which helps us explore the conservative movement in the United States and its relationship with Black communities. And that's another part. You feel me? Like, when it comes down to this, you have to understand these men that y'all were calling, Uncle Toms and all this other stuff, they was in the same hoods that y'all was in. They was coming up in the same environments that y'all were in. And they understood the importance of being like, yo, I have solutions. It may not be the same solutions that y'all have, and I definitely disagree with y'all solutions, but I come from these neighborhoods too. One of the things that Meeks, one of the reverend that asked the question, and Meeks answered, he said, the Black middle class, they're scared to be revolutionaries. They already threw Martin Luther King's ideology out of the window. Again, they didn't believe in that nonviolent shit and the type of shit that he was into. You feel me? Which is totally funny, because when it comes to political and economic ideologies, the Black Panther Party and Martin Luther King was like this. They were both pushing Marxism and communism. However, his approach with Marxism and communism was different than the Black Panther Party, because they wasn't going. The Black Panther Party was the definition of, oh, I'm not going. I'm not going. I will pick up my rifle and boom you to hell before I let you throw rocks at me and do all of that stuff. I'll shoot you before I let you abuse me. So that's how that goes. But he was saying, the Black middle class, they don't rock with Martin Luther King's ideology for real, which was true. And they're scared to become revolutionaries. Like, yo, I have a job, dog. I got to go to work I got to go to work in the morning, bro. I'm not about to be burning down the city, tearing shit up, and doing all of this stuff. I have to go to work. I have to take care of my family. And we talked about this on stream before. Practicality and pragmatism that's Black American. That's Black American. That's the ancestral Black American ethos all over again. Being able to practically and pragmatically solve issues is going to be a through line through Black American history, for all of time. You dig what I'm saying? No matter how liberal, no matter how Democrat Black Americans have become, you are going to have Black American, conservative-minded, conservative politically people that are going to exist. Period. I know Black Republicans right now who are voting for Republicans. They exist. So it's always going to be around. There's going to be Black conservatives no matter what. Now, however popular they are, that's media and different things like that. But these people existed. And so, again, if there is a Black middle class, then you can't discount those people. Why is it that the system is whatever it is, you feel me? But those people in the burbs, because again, we can go here real quick. Because I brought this up and I'm going to keep bringing it up because it bears repeating. We was talking about Chicago, right? So I'm glad this is a through line. Just the theme. I like that when themes come together. This wasn't even, planned in that way. I mean, of course, I outlined the stream, but this is the tweet that I always bring up. This is the same city, same era, and two vastly different realities. Look, this is Chicago, 1930. This is Black Chicago, 1930. You know what else? This is also Black Chicago, 1930s. Also. So when it comes down to realities, you're going to have people who are living like this, who view life, view the world, view the police, view white people, view the government completely different than these people. That's just the reality of the situation. If you were to ask this family what it's like to live in Chicago, they're going to give you a completely different answer, even if they understand that poor Black Americans exist. Even if they understood that they are not, these people are living the life that they are living. They have the nice car. They have so much money. They got their son a fake small car, wearing nice suits and stuff like that. This is the same city in the same era. Both of these pictures were taken in the 1930s. It wasn't the same year, but this is what I'm speaking to. So are you expecting this family to become revolutionaries? Like it's not logical, fam. So that's what I'm talking about. I understand that the haves versus the have-nots and all that other stuff, and that's the reason why when it comes down to the conservative, political figures and stuff like that, their entire endeavor was to get people in this station of life to get to the station of life of these people. And you don't have to overthrow a government to get it done. That's the whole point. They want to, frame it like you have to do that, but you don't. And we know that's to be true because we now, again, have the luxury of being in the present day. Being in the present day, period. This is almost 100 years ago. And we still seeing that I know people. I know that I was born poor and now I'm not. I know my contemporaries, a lot of them. I talk to them frequently on spaces and different places. They was born in the trenches. They were in the 90s trenches. And now they're in a nice, quiet suburb, got their 2 cars, got their 2 kids, got the dog, the picket fence, and the whole 9. And they did not have to overthrow the government to make it happen. That's the truth of the matter. That's just the reality of all of this. So when it comes down to, pragmatism, no, I'm not about to have the Black middle class become a bunch of, Marxists in the name of a bunch of angry, poor people in the slums. No, the better thing to do is do everything that we can to raise the conditions of the people in the slums, to be able to educate, be able to refine, and be able to, employ, to enrich them. That's the incentive. So let's get back to the article. Okay? So let's go. Starting at the top. Oh, come on now. In 1967, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. brought his Peace March to Chicago, Illinois, hoping to quell, quote, racial turmoil in the city. Another Reverend, Henry Mitchell, lived on Chicago's west side where he founded the North Star Missionary Baptist Church. He said that in the panel. On April 17, 1967, as King planned his Chicago march, Mitchell joined with two fellow missionary Baptist ministers to hold a press conference. Across the front of the speaker's podium, a banner was emblazoned with the quote, "What can you do to bring peace in Chicago?" Mitchell and his fellow ministers told King exactly what he can do to promote peace in Chicago. Get the hell out. Told Dr. Martin Luther King, get the fuck up out of Chicago, blood. Get up out of here. We don't need you. They had no interest in marches or, they had no interest in marches or King's demands to the federal government. Mitchell said about King, quote, "If he wants to march on the west side, let him march with rakes, brooms, and grass seed." Because Mitchell used jobs programs and economic opportunity to uplift his community rather than political protest. Again, this is what I'm talking about, and this is what I mean by primary sources. The Congressional Record, they cite the sources. Sorry that I couldn't get the raw primary source, y'all. Y'all know that's my bag. So, he's saying like, yo, before you come through and try to disrupt what's fucking going on, understand that this is the hood. It's dirty. And if you going to come out here and have a protest or a march your ass with some brooms, Martin. March your ass with some rakes so we can clean up this motherfucker. March your ass with grass seed so we can actually make our communities beautiful. Because you're not going to come here, grift off of Chicago, and then take your ass to Indianapolis next week. Or take your ass to Detroit, the next day. No. If you really care about Chicago, if you really want to help black Americans in Chicago, be on the ground with us. Because as a Chicagoan, I can tell you exactly what we need on the west side. I literally run a program that is pushing job. We have job programs here. We could use your support. It's no different when I'll be interviewing a King Randall or a Maj Touré who was fundraising for their institutions, right? And we spend our money wherever we spend our money. You feel me? But these guys, they are on the ground fundraising to make sure that they're ushering in the 21st century version of what Reverend Mitchell is talking about. Black American advancement via jobs, economic opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. Because political protests don't put food on the table. Political protests don't put money in your pocket. Unless you're a grifter, political protest is not going to change the aesthetics of your city. It may even make it worse because now we got hundreds, if not thousands of people in the street walking, talking with signs, eating, snacking. So you littering. You have the potential to make our city look even worse. But you come in here on the behalf of the Chicagoans? You coming here on the behalf of the people on the ground? I think not. I think you're coming here to push your ideology, which is the dependency on the federal government. And as somebody who is giving people jobs, making sure these guys are, the young men and young women have proper employment, making sure that I'm providing economic opportunity with what I have. And it ain't like I'm a rich man. You got more clout than me, but I'm the man in Chicago. I'm the man where I'm from. And then you come here with your national fanfare and you're not about to put near dollar in my city. You're going to use my city, get all of the clout and say that you was protesting and all of that in my city. And then you off to the next one tomorrow. And I gotta sweep up after y'all leave because I live here. I gotta be the one to clean up after y'all leave and all that other stuff. And I still, tomorrow, there's young black men and young black women who need jobs. And I still gotta wake up and do my job and make sure that I'm helping them. You feel me? So let's go. Using newspaper articles in the North Star Mission Star News newsletter, which, reading that was crazy, but I got it. This paper explores Mitchell's political work. starting with his remarks towards King in 1967 and ending with the election of Ronald Reagan in 1980 to illuminate a strand of black conservatism that meshed well with the broader American conservative movement, yet emerged from grassroots concerns with fundamentalist black communities. Rather than a simple act of historical inclusion, I explore Mitchell's vision of freedom to illuminate the influence of race and racialization on conservative politics, which often goes unmarked and uninterrogated within a historiography that focuses largely on white conservative activists. This is extremely important here. You feel me? Extremely important here because I just tweeted this. So many of black conservatives throughout history have been relegated to Uncle Toms, coons and shit. And as somebody, you feel me, that has been called a coon by my detractors for over a decade, it's more of the same. Black men come through with pragmatism, practicality, economic-based solutions, and we're not trying to overthrow the government. We're not trying to petition the government for particular legislation and all of that from a federal level. Now, when we talking state, when we talking local, we can talk because that's our tax dollars at work. We can go to the city council office. We can go to the governor. We can go to the mayor. We can go to the alderman. We can go to the city bookkeeper and all of that other stuff. I remember watching a clip where this guy, I think he was being fired or being whatever, like not impeached, but recused, turned over, something like that. He was leaving office because he was doing some fuck shit. But he was like, yo, as a city councilman, I'm pretty much the piggy bank of the city. I'm pretty much the bank account of the city. So these people have your tax dollars in their offices right now. So whatever your city needs, whatever your town needs, you need to be on their heels. Fuck Biden, fuck Trump, fuck Obama, fuck all of that. You niggas need to be on your governor's head. You need to be on your mayor's head. You need to be on your city councilman's head, your alderman's head. You feel me? Your police chief, you need to be on your judge's head. Like all of these people, you elected them and they have your fucking money in their coffers right now. That tax revenue is the taxes that you get taken out of your check. That's your fucking money. That's your money, fam. You have every right to go to these offices in the same way that you can have Martin Luther King and them come fill my goddamn streets on the west side. Why we not going to the local politics? Because they all Democrats. You feel me? Y'all don't fuck with the conservatives, but the Democrats are the ones fucking up your community. How come we don't come near 200, 500, 1,000 deep and demand answers, demand solutions, and we not going nowhere? Everybody done seen the Malcolm X movie, right? Where they went when son got beat up by the police, and they stood, the Nation of Islam stood outside the hospital and held them accountable, and we will not go anywhere until that young man is not only getting the proper care that he got, but he's released safely. And it worked. So when it comes down to this shit, why are we not protesting at these motherfucking buildings? Why are we going up and down the goddamn streets screaming, "We shall overcome, no justice, no peace," all of that other shit with signs? You feel me? Why are we not going to the city councilman? Why are we not going to the mayor? Why are we not going to the governor? Explain that to me. Why are we going immediately to the federal government? Who taught you that? Who taught you to skip all of these fucking levels and go to the federal government? Who told you that? And the only ideology that actually pushes this type of shit are your Marxists, are your communists, because they don't have no fucking local government. It's just the state. It's just the federal government in their context. Soviet Russia, China, and all this other shit. You're not going to no motherfucking mayor in China. You're not going to no motherfucking mayor in Venezuela or Cuba. It's just the state. So you walking past, you marched past the fucking building. The governor like, whew, they ain't after me. They ain't on my body. They just mad. They just protested. They walked right past our fucking office. Thank God. Motherfucking governor, they be so fucking bold with it. The governor and the mayor and the councilman, they hop in the protest with you. Like, they not a part of the motherfucking problem. You know how many times I done seen Eric Adams in a protest? You know how many times I've seen local politicians protesting? I would have been like, yo, what the fuck are you doing here, nigga? Like, you a part of the fucking problem. Like, I would have wigged. Y'all went to, like, yo, listen, I'm going to tell y'all. I went to one protest. And I went there because, you know, Philly was a big city that protested and shit like that during, like, you know, the Black Lives Matter era and all that other shit. You feel me? And I wasn't gonna march, fam. I ain't even gonna hold you. I ain't no protester. G, I ain't one of them niggas. I'm not about to be walking with no motherfucking picket sign and shit. Like, I ain't doing that shit. However, it was at an event, and the event had a protest inside of it. So I went to the event. It was a community event in Philly and shit like that. It's one of the spots where I met Umar for like maybe the second time or whatever. And then it went into, but he left, and I'll tell you why he left in just a second. So, this older lady, she had to have been like 70, 80 years old. And she was like, baby, I need you to march for me because I can't march anymore. And of course, I'm like, oh, come on, granny. Like, because she don't even know that I'm like anti-protesting. Like, I'm not marching nothing. She don't even know that. But so God put her in my life to challenge me. Had to be. So she like, baby, can you please just march for me? I can't march anymore, so I need you to march for me. So, you know, my heart melted immediately. Gave her a hug and kissed her forehead and said, I 100%. So, not to, you know, gossip out of school or whatever, but there was this young lady. I actually talked about her on Rashad's Space. There was a young lady that was trying to expose Umar at the time. It was very early. It was about 10 years ago. And she was trying to expose him and shit like that. And she called herself the conscious stripper or whatever. And she was in the protest. Now, Umar was there, but he slid. Umar was there, shook his hand, all of that stuff, met him or whatever. Didn't get a picture. And then I guess he seen her and got the fuck up out of there. Umar got the hell out of that protest. He seen Shorty and he was like, oh, hell no. Hell no, I'm out of here. So I'm marching and shit. She gossiping about the nigga to me. I don't know how. What is it called? Because we wasn't pillow talking. She was just like just spilling the Umar tea to me. Just spilling the Umar tea to me. Luckily for Umar, I'm not a chatty patty ass nigga like that, and I would never hop online and like repeat what the fuck she said. But I also don't remember a lot of what she said. But she was talking cash shit about Umar. She told me what his real name was and all this other shit. She was like, you don't even know what his real name is. You think he's such an upstanding. Like, she was going crazy. And I was just like, yo, listen, man. I'm only marching next to you right now because a granny just told me that I need to, you know, march on her behalf. That's it. I really don't care. But I'll never forget that day. So, back to the article. Back to the article. So, did we leave off? Oh, yeah. We left off here. Let's scroll down. Keep me in my place. So, it says, by focusing on Mitchell, a black American who believed the civil rights movement was a communist plot to deprive black Americans of their dignity, I show how expanding the scholarly focus on 20th century conservatism to include black voices like Mitchell's helps to nuance and enrich our understanding on religio-racial backlash to the civil rights movement. After the collapse of Reconstruction, the failure of reparations, and a slow and stalling integration, the federal government had regularly abandoned black communities, and Mitchell's political and economic solutions reflect that abandonment. So again, this is reminiscent of the Lily Whites coming in. Because now, just a lot of new people in here, so shout out to y'all. Make sure that you guys that are new here, that came based upon somebody reposting the stream, y'all repost the stream now too. Yeah, so I ain't gonna hold y'all. I'm taking cues from my counterparts like Rashad, and the advice that I'm getting in the back channels as far as my channel and stuff like that. They are telling me, nah, you don't promote enough, bro. You need to pause for a little bit and promote. So make sure y'all reposting this. Make sure y'all subscribing to the Patreon. Patreon.com/Hotep History. That's a fitty fact. You feel me? So when it comes down to black Americans they were, from the onset of getting involved in politics, they were staunch Republicans. They voting Republican down the ticket just like they vote Democrat down the ticket today. And the reason why is because Democrats were the party, and still are, if you're being totally honest. The parties did not flip. It did not flip. You can't even show me any Republican politicians who flipped to Democrat or vice versa during the 50s and 60s. That's just a fucking myth. They talk about the Southern strategy and shit. Nobody flipped. Nobody. Maybe one or two, but trust me, it's the same party. So Democrats were the party of slavery and KKK and then later Jim Crow, whatever. So the Republicans knew that, black people ain't going nowhere. They're going to keep voting for us. We ain't got to worry about them. We got them, hook, line, and sinker. And so they began to abandon black Americans, black American voters for lily white Republicans. You feel me? And Dixiecrats. They wanted more and more support in the South. The Democrats ran the South, but pretty much. And so in order for them to get the votes that they needed to play nice with the Democrats in the South. And the way that they did that, you can look it up, the compromise, and I got the good Ethernet cord, so we can do this. Hold on. Compromise. They had more than one compromise, but the compromise of 1877 is the one I'm talking about. And it says the Compromise of 1877, also known as the Wormley Agreement, the Tilden-Hayes Compromise, the bargain, was the unwritten. So this was a backdoor deal. Unwritten political deal in the United States to settle an intense dispute over the results of the 1876 presidential election, ending the filibuster of certified whatever. But a part of this compromise was to extract the troops out of the South. You feel me? Extract the troops out of the South. The troops in the South, the federal troops in the South, they were keeping a lot of that domestic terrorism that we learned about in school at bay. The KKK, the Red Shirts, the White League, all of these white groups who were going around black America and terrorizing them, burning crosses in the yard, killing and lynching and all that other stuff. You feel me? The federal troops would intervene on black America's behalf in a very major way. So the compromise was like, you get the troops out of there. We'll give you the support that you need, Republicans. And that's the backdoor handshake deal that they had. So that's what happened when it came down to being betrayed and abandoned by a particular party and as well as the federal government. Right? So in this contemporary sense, in the 60s, Mitchell is seeing the same thing. That y'all started voting for Democrat 20 years ago, and look how they're treating you. Look what they're doing. Okay? So, let's see. Through Mitchell, we better understand what it was like to be a black American in the mid-20th century and not see your freedom articulated in King's methods of nonviolent protest or welfare programs run by the federal government. While Mitchell did not aim to reconcile his position with King's, he effectively positioned King as an antagonist to his conservatism. And a lot of the conservatives thought this way. A lot of them. We just went over it, but it bears repeating because it's relevant here. I posted George Schooyer and what he said. All right, so let's go to the media. Got to go to the media because I know I ain't tweet too many pictures. I haven't been posting a lot of history stuff. I've been getting a lot of other work done behind the scenes. So right here, his quote, Dr. King's principal contribution to world peace has been to roam the country like some sable typhoid Mary, infecting the mentally disturbed with perversions of Christian doctrine and grabbing fat lecture fees from the shallow pated. Don't that sound like Mitchell? Don't that sound exactly like Mitchell? So you have these older conservative black men in black America. They not living amongst white people. They don't got white wives like you see a lot of the contemporary black conservatives do today. These are black men with black families living inside the black community being like, Martin is he's not doing what the fuck he needs to be doing for real. These are men on the ground, black men on the ground, who is like, Martin don't know what the fuck he's talking about, fam. He's grifting. That's basically what School Year is saying here. Dr. King is a grifter, fam. And I'm not here to disparage nobody or whatever, but we speaking objectively. So when it comes down to this stuff, yo, you have to understand it wasn't that all of Black America was going. The middle class wasn't fucking with that MLK shit. These men, like most entrepreneurs, what I tell y'all, the industrious, the commercial, the professional. Okay? These three groups of people were not fucking with Martin Luther King, son. This ideology was not, we not jacking that. Because now you're disenfranchising long-term my customer base, my employees. Because now if they get on welfare, they're not going to be incentivized to keep working for me, keep shopping with me and all the other shit. They're going to be incentivized to rely on y'all or rely on the government. This is a symbiotic relationship that Black America's producers and Black America's consumers have. And we need the proliferation of Black American advancement, okay, or Black American self-sufficiency, rather. Black American, self-reliance, group economics. We need each other. We don't need the fucking government. I want to grow my business. And the only way I can grow my business is with Black and white patronage and Black and white employees. Because, like, the Black business owners ain't really, like, I told y'all about Samuel B. Fuller. He had 5,000 sales agents across the country. He had 38 offices, in 38 states, rather. He had offices in 38 states. You think he was relying on the federal government to provide for his employees? No. However, if the federal government comes in and say, hey, we'll supplement your income, we'll supplement your grocery bill, we'll supplement your housing. So what about the Black landlords? What about the Black business owners? What about the Black owners in the community who are providing goods and services to the people in the community? People are not thinking. So the professional, the industrial, and the commercial, they're thinking, because when you're a business owner, you have to think about tomorrow. You have to think about 5 years from now. You have to think about 10 years from now. So when you see legislation coming down the pike being like, what you mean they don't have to, what? And so, you're going to be able to rub shoulders with the federal government, get your Section 8 vouchers and your tenants, guaranteed money. Because landlords today, they love the Section 8 because they know the government is paying. So nobody's going to be, the rent never going to be late. You feel me? But what if I told the Black landlords, like, listen, while you are getting guaranteed money from the government, you feel me? What about this? You already know that rates are going to increase because property taxes and all the stuff that you have to pay are going to increase. So you got to increase rent. What if wages increased alongside? Right? And again, if you are focusing on the government and getting money from the government, they're going to keep you at that level. So now you capped at that. So y'all could have gotten rich together, balled out together, be able to shop with each other and help each other. Now it's, we got to stay right here. So while this is guaranteed, you're going to get your guaranteed Section 8 voucher, rent, and all the other stuff. You got that in your joint every month. However, what happens when these people break out of this whole welfare shit, make more money, and then want to move out? Now, if we're all developing at the same time, property owners, renters, we're all building up and doing what we need to do, it's a symbiotic relationship that is allowing everybody to be enriched. But, see, what happens is they take away the producers, turn everybody into consumers, and then, they replace the producers, largely the men, keeping it gangster. That's a part of taking the Black men out of the household. It took them out of the community too. It took a lot of the business owners out of the community as well because everybody's now relying on daddy government. So again, I understand when y'all reading this legislation or when you're hearing, the politicians being like, we're doing this to help the poor and all this other shit. Y'all got to read the fine print. What does this legislation look like? If the government is handing you out something, what does your neighborhood look like without it? What does your neighborhood look like with it long term? Shit, short term. But what does this actually look like outside of how they're describing it to you? Lip service and running their motherfucking mouth. What does this actually look like in practicality? What does this actually look like in execution? And look, these men were speaking out against the welfare state before crack, before the project buildings, before crime bill, before the violence, before the gangs, before all of that shit. Like, yo, dog, I'm telling y'all, this is what I was talking about. The Sandy Darity versus currency, right? Spitter is telling you, yo, you can do it. I come from the fucking east side of New Orleans, my nigga. If I can make it, you can make it. And then you got the intellectual Sandy Darity telling you, no matter what you do, you can't get to my level. However, because Sandy Darity is telling you that it's not my fault, it's not your fault. No, it's not about individual and what you are willing to do with your life. You feel me? It's not about that. Nah, it's about the government not giving you a handout. And so because of that, you are now being like, well, shit, I ain't about to do shit until the government give me what the fuck I'm due. And this is not a conversation about reparations, because I'm for reparations all day long. Let me make myself very clear to anybody that may be listening and that may not know my position on reparations. I'm with it and always will be with it. However, we can't stop living until we get reparations. We can't stop living until the government, finds another way to finesse you with good intentions. These men did all of this stuff because you got to remember where they grew up at. They probably was sharecroppers as little boys, little girls. Thugging it out, came out of the gutter, been able to make something of themselves. Doctor, lawyer, business owner, real estate developer, whatever it is that they were doing. And they was like, yo, son, if I can do it, y'all can do it. That's why these Black American men resonate with me so much, because I talk like that. They held Black America to a higher standard. Everybody be having the bigotry of low expectations on the outset, like people coming from the out looking in, being like, oh, they're just so poor, wretched souls. They don't know any better. They can't do any better. All of that bullshit. Black America fucking, internalizes these feelings going against the ancestral Black American ethos, which brought them to this point as far as like being able to build and all the other stuff. We had business owners dating back to the 17th century, fam. The 17th century. America wasn't even born yet, and we had Black American business owners. Look up James Fortin, fam. I'm going to evoke his name. He literally helped build Philadelphia, fam. A Black man. So again, these Black men have these are actually pro-Black people. These are actually pro-Black people. I actually believe in Black America's resilience, determination, and ability and capability to build themselves up in the face of all of this shit. And if we can keep the fucking eye on the prize and focus on what the fuck we actually are trying to accomplish, and then also make sure that we understand who the real enemy is, which is the federal government, we'll be just fine. But then you niggas are sitting there trying to be buddy-buddy with the fucking feds. The same governing body that is surveilling your fucking house. The same governing body that's blowing up cars, blowing up homes, fucking up and sabotaging Black American progress. You want more of that. You want more federal government? Are you fucking insane? These niggas are letting you know that they are your fucking enemy day in and day out. And your solution is to keep petitioning this same governing body to help you. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because if your sister was getting her ass beat, you feel me? If your brother was getting his ass beat in an abusive relationship, and you heard him being like, yeah, he keeps coming to her to solve the issue, you would be like, yo, bro, what are you doing? She's the problem. What are you going to her for? She's the one doing the abusing. It's the same thing. But now, if you, him, your peoples all come together and being like, yo, bitch, you need to fucking get right or get the fuck out of here. Get limited. We need to get you up out of here. Then that makes more sense. But all of y'all coming together and pleading to this woman who's been abusing your brother for however many years to do right by you, that is fucking insane, son. That doesn't make any logistical sense. So these are the men and women being like, yo, Martin Luther King's is hitting us with this communistic, idealistic bullshit. It's not helping Black America. It makes y'all niggas feel good because y'all niggas get to fucking not work and march in the streets all goddamn day. But the people who are actually providing jobs, Black Americans who are providing jobs, they need your patronage. The Black men and women who are building schools, like Maj Touré and King Randall, they need your fucking donations, yo. And the only way you can get donations is if you got a motherfucking source of income. Symbiotic relationships between Black American producers and Black American consumers, ladies and gentlemen, that is the key to Black American advancement, not the federal government. And I stand on that. Period. Every single time that we've relied on the government, they fucked us over, man. Let's be smart here. Let's use our noodles. Do the noodle dance. Shout out to the people who know what the noodle dance is. Let's get to the chat real quick. I haven't checked in on the chat. Let's see. Maddie Henrichsen. The highway that split a Minnesota city was Interstate 94, which cuts through St. Paul and destroyed the thriving Rondo neighborhood. The state destroyed a thriving Black city. Random info for you all. Shout out to Maddie for that. Understand, yo. I know the government, they threw y'all off. The government had you thinking it was just some random cracker that was racist in the trailer park. That's your enemy. No. Don't try to hit me with the old switcheroo. It's y'all. Y'all are actively disenfranchising my community. Not that random white dude. Not him. It wasn't some random racist white dude that's the enemy. I don't care that he's racist. I don't care that he thinks I'm a brain dead thug. I don't care that he thinks that I'm a rapist. And I don't care about him. I care about how the government, local, state, and national, federal government is fucking over my community. That is what I care about. Sammy says, Crystal says, facts, 300 emoji. Shout out to Crystal. Sammy says, Umar, wild one, bro. You don't know the half. Shout out to Umar, though. Vincent, whole bunch of emojis. Sammy says, one of them flipped. I think his name was Strom Thurmond. Kind of like Trump's troops in D.C. keeping the peace in D.C. at the moment. See? Now, this is where you're wrong, Sammy. Because what they're doing is the overreaching of the government. Again, you cannot infringe on people's rights. And now I'm going to tell y'all this. I thought the same way y'all thought. Just about a week and a half ago. Until I talked to my libertarian homie, Maj Touré. And he was like, no. No. That's not how we're going to do this. My libertarian homie, shout out to Jeff. Shout out to Maj. They keep me abreast on the libertarian ideology as it pertains to this stuff. I asked Charles. Well, I asked Jeff. His name is Jeff Charles. Shout out to him. I asked Jeff, I'm like, yo, what is the libertarian view of policing and, and all of this other stuff? How are you guys viewing this whole DC thing? And he was basically saying like, yo, listen, we want the cops and stuff in the government and stuff like that to focus on the murderers, the rapists, the kidnappers, the traffickers. You feel me? The ones who are actually, harming lives. But you smoking a spliff with a gun on you in the corner of your neighborhood, no. As a matter of fact, this is not him now. That's what he was saying. But my view of what he was saying is like, yo, if you were to infringe, because again, that's what a robbery is. You infringing on my rights. You feel me? The libertarians are basically saying, protect yourself. Send that nigga to hell. Motherfucker try to rob you. You feel me? Because they stand on do no harm and all of that. So if a motherfucker trying to harm you, you got to send him to hell. Point blank, period. That's just what it is. So the libertarians is like, yo, the government should only be around or the police should only be around to stop the murderers, the rapists, the traffickers, the people that are actually, violating, human rights. But no, we're not about to bother a random 18-year-old smoking a blunt with a gun in his pocket. No. It's until he tries to commit a crime to where if he tries to infringe or tries to harm somebody else, that person that he's trying to harm has the right to send him straight to hell. Not before. Period. And I was like, all right, Jeff, I feel that. Now, when it comes to, sorry, I crushed my water bottles. But now when it comes to certain, Memphis says send him to hell. Word. So when it comes down to, practicality right now, I know a lot of us in the contemporary sense in the 21st century are like, yo, that's, we need extreme measures and shit like that. Like, no. I'm telling y'all, when you allow for a little bit of your human rights, a little bit of the common law, a little bit of the natural law to be infringed upon, it's just a slippery slope. You have to trust people to be people. Give them the rights that they have in the Constitution, and the country will I'm telling you, it will heal itself. Because all we have to do is remind the American people what their rights are. And once they're reminded of that, they'll be like, oh, I could send him to hell for trying to rob. I could send him, like, we get all these draconian gun laws out of these states. Your New Yorks, your Chicagos, all of these different crazy draconian gun laws that are literally restricting civilians from protecting themselves, but the criminals got all of the guns. It's not near gun law that has stopped gun violence. I'm telling y'all right now. Because the entire point of being a criminal with a gun or doing something illegal with a gun is to break the law. That's the entire fucking point. That's the entire point. So you can put as many laws on the books as you want. If that criminal wants to do harm with his firearm, he will. But you know what would quell that bullshit? If a bunch of private citizens in this country were armed to the teeth and that motherfucker had to play Russian roulette with his life every night he wanted to catch a jukes. You don't know who house you about to kick in. You don't know what's behind that door. Shout out to Texas. Shout out to Florida. You a bad motherfucker if you doing home invasions in Texas. I'm telling you. I wouldn't ever do it. I think in my little teenage years, I ran up in like maybe 2 houses. That wasn't my bag. Because it's the unknown, son. The fear of the unknown. It's uncertain as a motherfucker behind that door. You don't know what's waiting for you. So all of the niggas who doing B&Es in Texas and in Florida, God bless you niggas. Because y'all niggas ain't scared of shit. Y'all ain't scared of shit. What, nigga? In Texas, you running in his house at 2 a.m? Oh, you bugged. You better than me, nigga. So, I hope I, gave y'all some color to why I be going as hard as I go. Let's finish the article because we ain't even finished the article. Let's see. Scholars have shown, we right here, y'all, up here. Scholars have shown that black ministers like Elder Solomon Lightfoot McHugh and J.H. Jackson, look, we talked about Joseph H. Jackson. Joseph H. Jackson was a more prominent minister than Dr. Martin Luther King. Joseph H. Jackson famously bought 400 acres of land for sharecroppers to be able to get their money up and not charging them any rent. Interest free. Rent free. Just till the land, grow your crops, harvest the crops, sell your crops for a profit because it's all profit or mostly profit because you still had to probably buy seed or whatever. And then you be able to buy your own land. That's what Joseph H. Jackson was doing. I ain't hear nothing close to what Dr. Martin Luther King, I ain't never heard nothing like that for Dr. Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. That's what Joseph H. Jackson was doing with his own personal wealth. And don't y'all get me started on Dr. S.D. Redmond. But anyway, moving on. Openly opposed King and connected his efforts to the threats of communism, thus disrupting the traditionally white histories of anti-civil rights movement activism. See? We don't learn about them. So the mainstream histories have told y'all the only people that opposed the civil rights movement was a bunch of racist crackers. Not so. Scholars of conservative politics, including Leah Wright Regier, I hope I'm saying that right, effectively examine the role of black conservatives in national politics, but they have not centered their studies around black ministers. What do I say is the problem with black American history, y'all? What do I say is the problem with black American history? That they be centering white people. So look, right here. Thus disrupting the traditionally white histories of anti-civil rights movement activism. And they're coming down here, but they have not centered their studies around black ministers. Centering white people, not centering black people in black history. How about it? It's almost like Hotep be knowing what the fuck he be talking about. It's almost like Hotep Dubes actually reads the books. It's almost like Hotep Dubes actually know what the fuck he be saying on these streams. But I digress. Let's move on. Thus, they have overlooked one of the historical anchors of black life in the United States and failed to describe how conservative politics are often filtered through their communities through predominantly fundamentalist Christian language. And that's where Young Bull was like, yo, I ain't no Uncle Tom. Your mama may have brainwashed you, but I ain't no Uncle Tom. Come on now. I don't have to be lying to y'all. Let's go. Also, while Regier's work on black Republicans offer much to my study, Mitchell does not fit into this story of the Republican Party because of his position as a grassroots activist and his affiliation with the John Birch Society, which placed him within the conservative fringe rather than the mainstream conservative. Ain't this what I be talking about all day on the timeline? When I be talking about these mainstream black conservatives and I be kicking they fucking back in because they laid up with their white husbands and white wives and shit like that, looking down on black people, I tell y'all this shit all of the time. I be sick of these talking black Republicans. They really be cooning. I ain't gonna hold you. I don't jack them. The type of conservatism that I'm pushing, first of all, is Hotep. That's one. Believe it. That's one. And then two, when it comes down to this shit, they just want you to feel bad. They want to demoralize you. They ain't no different. So these niggas, these conservative niggas, be wanting to make you feel bad and say that everything that's black is bad. It's black by virtue of being black. You know, Democrat plantation, them silly ass talking points that they be having. But none of them black conservatives got motion in black American communities. None of the hoods in black America know these black conservative talking heads. Your Candace Owens, Officer Tatum. They don't know these niggas. They don't be in the hood. They don't fucking do shit for the community. But they get to sit on their motherfucking $1 million platforms with their white spouses and talk that shit. They talk that bootstrap shit, but they don't really want to do anything to help. Then you got the fringe conservatives like me and the Hoteps. Like, no, we got programs for niggas. We got solutions for niggas. And it ain't just get off the Democrat plantation. So we supposed to jump off the Democrat plantation, hop on the Republican plantation, and get fucked over by them. Because two wings are the same motherfucking bird. But if we all are on some self-reliant, self-governance, self-sufficient shit, then it don't matter who we rock with politically as far as the parties go. Because we got this. We got the ancestral black American ethos back in order. So I don't give a fuck if you vote Democrat or Republican. As long as the ethos is still intact and you're voting based upon the ethos, it don't matter. It don't matter. That's why I be trying to tell y'all. When motherfuckers be trying to get mad at me about my political affiliations or because I went to the White House while Trump was in office and shit like that, how could you? As a black man, how could you? The fact that you are making synonymous a political party in race lets me know you don't know what the fuck you talking about. Lets me know that you are already out. You don't know what you're talking about. And this is a game that's above your head. You playing social media games. You playing CNN TV games. You playing the games that these niggas on the timeline be playing. Where red bad, blue good. You niggas is out of your mind. This is you out of your depth, my nigga. There's good and bad on in each of these parties. There's Democrats that I fuck with. There's Republicans that I fuck with. There's Democrats that I don't fuck with. There's Republicans that I don't fuck with. That's how it was supposed to go, and that's what your ancestors told you to do with your fuck ass. But y'all didn't do that. Y'all bleed for one. That's it. And now the other one is bad. They niggas is dumb. I'm letting y'all know right now. Anybody under the sound of my voice, if any of your friends, any of your peoples are approaching politics like that, red bad, blue good, they're unserious about politics and they don't know what the fuck they talking about. That's from Hotep. You can tell them I said it. Because we don't play that game. We don't play that game. Let's go. Because you know I got something for y'all. You know I got something for y'all. Let's see. I talked about it on stream before, but again, it bears repeating. I got new people in here. Kling? I think Kling would be a good, no. Nah. Political party? Yep, there we go. Right here. This was written in 1884, by the way. I'm going to get to the chat in just a second, y'all. But this is what the ancestors was talking about. We read this before on stream, but I said it bears repeating. Let's get into it. Read along with me. The hour has arrived when thoughtful colored men, that's you, that's me, should cease to put their faith upon broken straws. When they should cease to be the willing tools of a treacherous and corrupt party. When they should cease to support men and measures which do not benefit them or the race. When they should cease to be duped by one faction and shot by the other. See, he didn't say blue, good, red, bad. No. Either one. You're getting duped by one and shot by the other. The time has fully arrived when they should have their when they should have their position in parties more fully defined, meaning you know what the fuck you're actually voting for, and when by the ballot which they hold should force more respect for the rights of life and property. Ain't saying shit about handouts. No. He's talking about life and property. He's talking about the Constitution. He's talking about being a red-blooded American for real. 1884, again. To do this, he's giving you the blueprint on how to do it. To do this, they must adjust themselves to the altered condition which surrounds them. They must make for thousands, I'm tripping. They must make for themselves a place to stand. In the politics of the country, the colored vote must be as uncertain a quantity as the German and Irish vote. Neither party should be able to count on your vote. Nobody should be able to say, oh yeah, the blacks in Baltimore, the blacks in Chicago, the blacks in Harlem, the blacks in Detroit, we know they're going to vote for us. We ain't tripping. Every election cycle should be a toss-up. The color of their skin must cease to be an index to their political creed. I'll say that again because it seems that it has been. The color of their skin must cease to be an index to their political creed. That just because you're black does not mean you should be voting Democrat. Just because you're black does not mean you should be voting Republican. Neither one is the black person party. Neither one. And finally, they must think less of the party and more of themselves. Give less heed to a name and more heed to principles. And I'm here to tell y'all, chat, this is not the first time. Somebody said this before him, before 1884. Believe that? Somebody said that after him. Believe that? There have been black men and women saying this shit over and over again. The minute that black people were able to vote, they were able to see, oh, both these motherfuckers is on some other shit. Gots to be more careful. Gots to make sure we protecting ourselves against them. This is what the ancestors have been telling y'all. I don't have to make this shit up. The ancestors speak very clearly. The instructions are very clear. It started, the first paragraph was letting you know the issue of the day. The second paragraph was teaching you how to implement the solutions. Let's get back to the article so we can finish up. I just realized it's 10:30, y'all. Been up here 2.5 hours, didn't even notice. Okay. So we almost done anyway. Yeah, we at the bottom. Jesus. Mitchell's speeches and articles in Star News described freedom from the federal government as essential to increase economic freedom, emphasizing self-sufficiency above all else. Like, come on, son. How many times do I have to be vindicated by the ancestors until y'all realize that I know what the hell I'm talking about? Mitchell believed that the civil rights movement and the liberal federal government continue to propose fussing and bussing policies with no constructive concrete ideas, and to, quote, assist the black community in achieving dignity, self-reliance, and personal esteem. In response, Mitchell's North Star mission began jobs programs, high school finishing programs, and social events for teenagers in Chicago's West Side. You see that? You see the difference between his program and his way of his strategy than these niggas? Y'all grifting all through my city. Y'all grifting all through the country, but I'm the one that's actually getting niggas through high school. I'm the one that's actually getting niggas jobs. I'm the one actually tangibly changing the lives of the people on the ground in my city. What King Randall tell us in the spaces? All of these national talking niggas, the niggas that don't even have any presence in their own city talking that national shit, it's a scam. Don't believe them. If they not popping in their own city, if at least 500 people don't know that man by face and face alone, it's a scam. Period. They not on the ground in their own city. What the fuck are you listening to them about national politics? Nobody even knows them in their own city. I went to your hood. No one heard of you. Like, come on, son. I'm on the ground making sure young men and women are finishing high school. What are you doing other than running your mouth? Going from city to city, state to state, grifting. Anyway. Where was that? In 1968, the Illinois state legislature passed a resolution commending the North Star missions programs, congratulating Mitchell on his successful mobilization of the, quote, clergy, homeowners, the social workers, and businessmen of the community into an effective fighting force to combat the deadly cancer among the youth of our society. Thank you, Reverend Mitchell, for actually making a difference, for actually making tangible difference. Let's keep going. Let's finish this up, and we'll get to the chat. Y'all make sure y'all throw me your comments in there. We're gonna have a little conversation, and I'm getting up out of here. Mitchell's local programs and national activism offer a window into the life of a pastor whose on-the-ground programs in Chicago significantly benefited the local community and whose national politics put him in conversation with Phyllis Schlafly, George Wallace, and the John Birch Society. His activism provides further evidence that McHugh and Jackson were not exceptions to the rule of white conservatism, but were part of a larger network of black conservative activists. You see what I'm talking about? They were buried, pushed to the side. Despite all of the on-the-ground shit that they was doing, their programs didn't make it to TV. Their programs didn't make it to the national news. Their programs they didn't go national like that. Not as much as Dr. Martin Luther King and them and the civil rights movement. They got all of the press. Everybody following Martin around. But black men in the community getting jobs for young men, helping them finish school, giving them economic opportunities in their neighborhood. Nah, that don't get the national press. Ain't that what we dealing with King Randall right now? Building schools in Albany, Georgia. Grassroots, and he's doing his thing. Shout out to him. But imagine if he had the same type of clout as a Umar. Imagine if he had the same type of clout as these niggas, these clown ass niggas that be on CNN and Fox News. Just in case you thought it was one way or the other with me. Both channels is on bullshit. Imagine if King Randall was a national figure, how much he could get done. He probably have a college campus built by now. And you know what's so fucking crazy about this shit is that the ancestors built college campuses off of grassroots. Because they wasn't sitting there thinking myopically. They weren't sitting there thinking obtuse. They wasn't saying, oh, I only want black dollars. What kind of nut ass shit is that to say? No. They were thinking pragmatically, practically, and being able to implement economic-based solutions. That was the type of time they was on. So yeah, we get to build Tuskegee. We get to make sure we continue the funding of Tuskegee because people fuck with the program. Not only that, we generating revenue inside of these buildings. We have something to sell. Come shop with us. If you can't enroll, come shop with us. If you can't shop with us, donate. If you can't donate, like and fucking subscribe. Share. Once again, make sure y'all reposting this. We on our way out of here. Make sure y'all retweeting this. Make sure y'all liking this. Make sure you liking and sharing, liking and all, do all of the things, and make sure you're subscribing to patreon.com/Hotep History. This is how we talk on this side. You hear me? This is how we talk in Hotep history. This is how we talk in Hotepistan. So, last paragraph. Thus, this paper shows how Mitchell's lived experiences as a black American and as a fundamentalist minister offer a much-needed exploration of black conservatism as an opportunity to detail different visions of freedom that nuance the history of the rise of the American conservative movement. Now, we'll read the last one. This is short. This is fine. In 1967, Black Baptist minister Reverend Henry Mitchell told Dr. King to get the hell out of Chicago because he, quote, created hate. Mitchell had no interest in marches on King's demands to the federal government. This paper argues that as a fundamentalist minister and John Birch Society speaker, Mitchell described freedom as, quote, individual responsibility and less government. Oh, they already mentioned this. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we own over here. You feel me? I come with scholarship. I come with primary sources, and even my secondary sources I don't repeat to y'all unless it's filled with primary sources. Shout out to everybody that came through. Let's check the chat. Let's see what we got. Sammy says, armed society is a polite society. All conservatism would initially be in the most blue cities is repealing laws. That would take up an entire term worth of work. True, but it's necessary. Cliff says, shout out to Spitter always. Currency gets busy and drops a lot of gems in his songs. Absolutely. He's the GOAT. He's the absolute GOAT. Number one rapper in my book. Over every last one of the people that you can think I could name. Yes, even him. Number one, period. Jet Life. Sammy says dope litmus test. Yeah, dope litmus test. If I don't want to hear shit. I don't want to hear shit. If you ain't got no motion in your own goddamn community, nigga, don't tell me about nothing national. If nobody know you in your city, if nobody know you in your neighborhood, if nobody know you in your community, I don't want to hear nothing about no national movement to do shit. Period. Because we got HotepCon coming. Savannah, Georgia, you know what I'm saying? Like, Hotep been on the ground. Niggas know who Hotep is in Philly. I just got to where I live now, so not too many people know me, but they know me a little bit out here too. I've been doing my online thing a little bit, so, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, make sure, okay? Sammy also says if they don't have firm recognition locally, we can't have them serious on the national issues. Yeah, we can't take them serious on national issues. That's a fact. Nigga, we don't know what you, like, King Randall right now be having hundreds of people running with him at 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning, running in Albany downtown. He can organize hundreds of people in Albany. That's why he's the GOAT out there. Because they love and respect what he's doing for them boys out there. African Mike says this was another banger. Appreciate it, young. And you already know I appreciate y'all, man. You know I appreciate y'all coming through always, always, always. You feel me? I appreciate y'all coming through to the stream. I appreciate y'all commenting. And I said I was only going to rock for 2 hours. And look, we pushed 3 because of the comments, because of the engagement. I appreciate y'all talking to me. I need that. I appreciate that. Talk to me, you know what I'm saying? When we have any stream, thank y'all for coming through and chatting it up. Memphis says, send them to hell. Quote, Hotep Dubes. That's a fact. Send them to hell. Motherfucker infringing on your rights, trying to take you off this earth, you got to send them to hell. Period. So I hope y'all enjoy the stream. You feel me? I'm holding y'all to making sure y'all come through. Tomorrow we gonna be taking a break. We not doing a stream tomorrow. I don't think. I gotta double check. But you know, schedules and stuff like that. But you will see a lot more of me. 8:30 just seemed ridiculous. So 8 o'clock is way better. Prime time. You guys are home, probably eating eating your dinner and stuff like that. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to your families. Hopefully you guys gain some value from this. If you did, please consider again hitting the super chat. Make sure y'all jump into the chat, throw a couple ducats my way. Make sure you're subscribing to patreon.com/Hotep History. Make sure you're following me. My page is right there on the screen. Okay? This is serious, y'all. I ain't playing. I'm not half-stepping. I'm going all in with this. I need y'all just like y'all need me when it comes to this knowledge. Okay? I spend all day in the archives. I do what I need to do to make sure that I'm sharp and being able to, provide this value, provide this information. So make sure you support your boy. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you back me up when it comes down to the things that I be saying. You feel me? All of this stuff goes a long way. Retweets, likes, subscriptions, all of that. That goes a long way, and I appreciate y'all, man. Sammy says, everyone hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. That's a fact. That's a fact, man. So, you guys have been great. I appreciate this. What we always say. Can't have the future without the present, and you can't have the present without the past. And we don't study history to live in the past, but to order our steps in the present so we can positively affect our future. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, Hotep and build, man. And I mean that. Let's get up out of here.